Greetings. My acknowledgement and
We seek the truth.
Would you be handing your resignation to the Minister of Culture tomorrow, sir?
No, I will not.
The leader of the opposition, you have accused your government, sir, of using the Grenada Development Bank to facilitate the financing of personal loans for certain government ministers.
The other side is in no position to talk about those issues, and I will leave it there.
We discover new perspectives.
You know his leadership style. And so many are saying, why are you coming now to talk about those issues?
Now is the time to speak. You have the right to decide who will take over.
And you met with Dr. Mitchell, and perhaps you might want to confirm what that meeting was about in your response. But
Dr. Mitchell, like myself, are Grenadians.
We ask the right questions.
Why was there no report on the work done of the commission? And how is this new committee different from the commission that was initially established back in 2022? So who are these elements that are using you?
I'm disappointed in my political leader.
And why is that animating those political conversations now?
It's a very interesting question.
The Bub Reports with Dr. Kellon Bub. Thought-provoking, truthful, unbiased, and truly original reporting.
Get persecuted, don't watch your Wokobia. I like to Wokobia. Trust me. Anybody say I does Wokobia, I like to pick up my calabash with my salt. When I see them and go and start to chew salt, just chew salt. And ring my bell, call my bell and ring my bell. You understand? I want to take up my candle and go and start to pray. Almighty and everlasting God, have mercy upon them. Mercy I ask, mercy I plead. I want to take up my glass with my water and ask God to send Michael the Archangel to stand by the entrance of my gate to prevent me from the wickedness and the bad tongue of the people. You could touch me and say anything but me, but as long as my God is real, He is real indeed.
Don't go there.
You are a technocrat. I mean, you can speak to whether or not it was appropriate or inappropriate for that to occur. Would you have done that as a permanent secretary?
Politicians get the information from wherever source that they can.
That's going to be the extent of your answer.
Yeah.
Don't go there.
There's a lot of noise around the data protection bill that, in my respectful view, is not warranted.
I was one of those making noise, and it's simply because I was concerned about that specific section 33.
Don't go there.
Are you going to be offering yourself up as political leader of the party?
I see you've called me here for much more than diplomatic passports. I don't mind that.
Don't go there.
What is the relationship like between you and your leader, Dr. Mitchell, your boss, Dr. Mitchell?
I'm not sure how to explain how to answer this question at this time. I prefer not to answer.
Don't go there.
They said that you approached the bank for the loan before the election and that it only materialized after the election. There are also conflicting reports around the quantity of monies that were received. What is the reality here?
People try to extort the truth and to make all kinds of things about it. I just stay quiet. So if you notice, I was really and truly quiet about the whole matter.
Well, except with not with the New Today newspaper. The New Today newspaper reported on this, so I'm not too sure you were quiet on this. Go ahead, Honorable. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just trying to answer your question, right?
Don't go there.
I think we just spoke at length about the regularization framework. So
yes, we did. But let us talk. Let us talk, Prime Minister. Let us talk about the workers who are dismissed.
The Bub Report. We go there.
A pleasant good morning to our viewers and listeners, and a happy Sunday to one and all, and welcome to this week's edition of the Bub Report. Of course, I want to begin this program by joyfully acknowledging, centering, and celebrating Shouter Baptist Liberation Day 2026. Of course, this is the 25th anniversary, not the 25th, sorry, the 75th anniversary of Shouter Baptist Liberation Day. Of course, why is this holiday significant? Of course, it will be formally celebrated tomorrow, but of course, the celebrations are continuing in Trinidad and Tobago today. Of course, this celebration is personally important and significant to me because, of course, it was on the 30th of March, 1951, that the colonial authorities in Trinidad and Tobago repealed what was known as the Shouter Baptist Prohibition Ordinance. And what was that ordinance? That ordinance was a law enacted by colonial authorities, not only in Trinidad and Tobago, but across the Caribbean, to criminalize any faith tradition of African descent, including the Orishas, the Shangos, the Spiritual Baptists, the Santerias. And Trinidad and Tobago made a decision under the Eric Williams and Bas Diopande administrations to really respect this faith tradition that continues to be stigmatized, stereotyped, and disrespected by many of us in so-called polite society across the Caribbean region. I had the personal experience of having my aunt of blessed memory, Carol Williams, be disrespected by her own family members who called her an Obia woman. You know, this colonial term, really, because that's what Obia is. It's a colonial term. It is not African at all. So today I pause to pay tribute to a faith tradition that I'm absolutely close to, a faith tradition that I venerate and honor and respect in so many ways. So happy Spiritual Baptist, Shouter Baptist, Orisha Liberation Day to all of those of the indigenous, it's really an indigenous faith tradition that continues to be disrespected, by the way, and continues to face prejudice across Grenada, really, and the Caribbean region. Anytime we say Spiritual Baptist, it evokes these very colonially inspired tropes, prejudicial tropes that people have. And for me, it's something that I really honor and respect. So again, to all my Spiritual Baptist Orisha Shango friends, I say to you, and happy Spiritual Baptist Liberation Day to all. Of course, let us find out where you're joining us from. Where are you watching the Bub Report from this week? We would love to hear from you. And of course, folks, today is, of course, for the first segment of the program, it will be very solemn. But before we get to the first segment of the program, I do also want to take this time to acknowledge that one of my media colleagues, somebody who I personally worked with, Linda Straker. Linda Straker is currently ill at the General Hospital and is seeking blood at the General Hospital. I do want to take this time to acknowledge Linda. And Linda, I do wish you a speedy recovery, and just know that we are sending you love and light from afar. Sending you love and light from afar, my colleague Linda Straker. And of course, later today on the program Legalize with Ewart Lane, the former president of Ghana, Dr. Donald Ramator, will be a guest of his on that program. And I believe that program kicks off at 7 p.m. on YouTube. Of course, that's Ewart Lane's program there, who will be featuring Dr. Ramator of Guyana. So please stay tuned for that. So, of course, we have folks who are joining us from Miracle Child is joining us from sunny Grenada. Then we have Nelkel Phillip, who's joining us from Westchester County in New York. We have Jennifer Lawrence, who is in Brooklyn, New York. Then we have Akeem Lewis, who is in New York. Then we have, who else do we have here? Let's see, who else is in the room? We have Onika, of course. Onika, welcome as always. You're joining us from the Great Flatbush in New York. So welcome on board, welcome on board. Camille Mitchell is joining us from Maryland. Camille, where in Maryland are you? I'm also in the state of Maryland. So welcome, welcome on board. Of course, my dearest Auntie Pat is here. Auntie Pat, of course, is joining us from beautiful golf course there in Grandance, St. George. So Auntie Pat, welcome on board. It's always a pleasure to have you on the program. Of course, we go back a very long way. Then we have Latoya Roberts, who is joining us from Jamaica. Latoya, welcome on board. Welcome to the show this morning. Who else do we have here? Let's see who else do we have here this morning. Let's see. We have Rihanna Date. Rihanna Date, welcome. You're joining us from New York. Welcome, Rihanna Date. Let's see who else. Carolyn Edwards. Carolyn, welcome. You're joining us from Grenada. Of course, folks, as you're coming into the room, please remember to like and share this week's live stream. Please remember to like and share this week's live stream. And of course, we want to get straight into the editorial this morning. Of course, we know that we had a sod turning ceremony of the new General Hospital up there at Hopevale, Wester Hall in St. George. And so, of course, that hospital brings with it a particular sense of history. So we will get into the editorial that discusses that. Just bear with me here 1 second as I pull up that Chiron. Of course, now according to Dr. Angus Martin's A to Z of Grenada's heritage, French colonizers established Grenada's first hospital in the 1740s on what is now known today as Cemetery Hill in the town of St. George, overlooking Melville Street. Of course, back then it was not called Cemetery Hill, it was called Hospital Hill. And of course, Grenadian citizens of a certain generation still call it Hospital Hill. Now in 1742, it came under the control of a French Catholic religious order and was later controlled by French colonial administrators. Now by the end of 1762, the new colonizers on the block, the British, of course, neither the French or the British are yet to acknowledge the historic crime of colonialism and slavery. But in that year, the British appointed a board of trustees to manage the Hospital Hill facility. And they subsequently passed the Colony Hospital Act to improve its medical management under a charitable corporation. Now, by the early 1800s, the Hospital Hill facility on Cemetery Hill fell into serious disrepair and subsequently abandoned due to insufficient funds and was replaced by several dilapidated and unsanitary temporary spaces across the town of St. George until 1859. So, of course, that was the first relocation of a hospital facility in Grenada. Now, it was in that year that the New Colony Hospital was established at its current site, which at the time served as ancillary facilities for the British military barracks at Fort George. So what we now know as the current hospital in St. George's, that was, of course, part of a military barracks facility supporting Fort George. Now, by the end of the 1890s, the hospital added the mortuary in 1898. How many of you remember the mortuary that overlooked, that was then we call Miami Beach, where the Esplanade was there, right? So that was in 1898. The operating room, dispensary, and nursing quarters was added in 1901, and an analytical laboratory in 1905. Then in 1931, the hospital expanded with a private ward as well as a children's ward, and its iconic central staircase, which was demolished in 2005. Of course, if you remember the staircase, it was that, I believe, that walkway that connected the Duncan's ward with the operating theater on the other side. Of course, downstairs of that old hospital was where, well, at the time they called it casualty, but you had that walkway overlooking that connected the two wards where you could actually walk, and when vehicles came into the hospital, they passed directly under that walkway. Many of you remember that. Now, fast forward to post-independence Grenada, and the year was 1995, and the then Nicholas Brathwaite, George Brizan-led NDC administration was headed to an election year with the promise of constructing a new state-of-the-art hospital in Mangay, the site which currently hosts Grenada's lone mental health facility. Now, in 2002, the previous Keith Mitchell-led NNP administration opened a new state-of-the-art hospital at the current site in St. George. Late Cuban President Fidel Castro personally promised to aid Grenada with this new hospital. And in fact, history would record that Cuba played a significant role in the construction of the new facility there just under the fort. Now, former Health Minister Dr. Clarence Modeste Cohen said at the time that the new hospital was part of a comprehensive plan to overhaul the country's health services sector. It was then in 2003 that the origins of what is now called Project Polaris enters the zeitgeist. The NDC-led Tillman Thomas administration proposed the construction of a new teaching hospital at the site that is now being proposed. Of course, that is now the sod has been officially turned for this site under Project Polaris. Of course, the Tillman Thomas NDC lost the 2013 election and was relegated into the political wilderness. That's until 2022, when, of course, the NDC won the election then. The underlying theme here concerning this new hospital is that it will intend to provide a quality of care that Grenadians were not able to see over the life of hospital services and medical services in Grenada. Of course, so here we are. Of course, last week, Friday, the government turned the sod, much to great fanfare, to the start of construction at the Project Polaris site there in Cali, Vinny, which of course adds another layer of history to Grenada's history of hospitals and health services. So of course, Grenada, we do wait to see what will be the outcome. Of course, healthcare continues to be a major issue impacting and affecting citizens of Grenada. So it's important that we appreciate this history, and whatever we think about it, whatever side we come down on I suppose the issue here about the scope and nature of this project, it's still important to acknowledge the history that comes with this. So folks, what we want to do now is to take our first break and come back for the first segment of the week. Please stand by for that.
Should your
My acknowledgement and sincere gratitude to the following: Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell for giving his support, Godfrey Smith for his kindness and generosity in helping to make these books available. He worked vigorously with the publishers. Minister David Andrews for facilitating this event. Maurice Risi Lagrenade for her unwavering support and determination. Leiden Ramdani, who gave invaluable assistance to ensuring the books reached the final destination of Grenada. Ministry of Education officials, Permanent Secretary Aaron Francis and Chief Education Officer Dominic Jeremiah, and other officials of the Ministry of Education who worked diligently with the organizing team. Last but not least, Hugh Donald for participating in the handover ceremony. Although not mentioned individually, many others were instrumental in this process. On October the 19th, 1983, Grenada experienced the worst tragedy in modern history. On that fateful day, Maurice Bishop and several patriots were brutally executed on Fort Rupert in St. George's. This followed a peaceful surrender of those who were savagely and summarily executed by machine gun fire without a trial in violation of due process. Those military captors acted as judge, jury, and executioners. This was the unbelievable and shocking culmination of a totally misguided and preposterous proposal by ultra-leftists on the Central Committee of the New Jewel Movement. Many of those Central Committee members held the leadership positions in the People's Revolutionary Army. There was no separation of the military and the Central Committee. Minister David
Viewers and listeners, we do want to take this time to pause for a minute silence. We do want to take this time to pause for a minute silence in honor of the late Dr. Roland Purcell. Of course, Dr. Roland Royston Purcell was born in Curaçao in the Netherlands, Antilles, to immigrant Grenadian parents. He was the oldest of 6 children and spent the first 7 years of his life in Curaçao before returning to Grenada with his parents. Of course, I also learned that Dr. Purcell spoke Papiamento, of course, being born in Curaçao. Purcell attended the St. David's RC School and then went on to the Grenada Boys Secondary School, where he completed his high school education. Dr. Purcell studied medicine at the University of the West Indies, formerly, of course, at the time, the University College of London University in Jamaica. Now, after graduating from UWI, Purcell completed his internship at the Port of Spain General Hospital in Trinidad and Tobago. Upon completion of his internship, he returned to Grenada to serve his people and worked as a medical officer at the General Hospital. Now, after completing his residency training in general surgery at the Interfaith Medical Center in New York, Dr. Purcell completed a fellowship in vascular surgery at the Texas Heart Institute and later returned to Interfaith in Brooklyn, a community that he called home for the rest of his life. Since then, Dr. Purcell has been a member of the medical staff at Interfaith and also served in the Department of Surgery, with deep commitment and dedication and a passionate love for patient care. Dr. Roland Purcell was an active member and fellow of the American College of Surgeons and the American College of Emergency Physicians. Dr. Purcell was also a member of the Society for Clinical and Vascular Surgery, the Society of Critical Care Medicine, and the Society of the American Gastrointestinal and Endoscopic Surgeons, as well as many others. In addition, he served 2 terms as the president of the medical staff at Interfaith. He was also honored by several organizations for his community work. Of course, folks, we do want to take this time to extend again our deepest condolences to the family of the late Dr. Roland Purcell. And here to pay tribute to Dr. Purcell is a longtime friend and educator, a teacher of Dr. Purcell, Mr. Alva James, a gentleman who I regard as having a lot of institutional Grenadian history, and of course, a former patient of Dr. Purcell, Raymond Matthew. Gentlemen, welcome to this week's edition of the Bub Report. It's certainly a somber time to be here, but certainly for us, we thought it was important, excuse my voice, to pay tribute to Dr. Purcell. So, Mr. James, I want to begin with you. Can you reflect and reminisce on how you got to know Mr. Purcell?
Yes, I can. It was 1961 at St. David's Catholic Primary School. I was waiting on results from high school certificate examination and living at my father's house in St. David's when Mr. Danny Sylvester, the then principal of St. David's Primary School, asked me to come teach a class for him because he was losing a teacher. Because I had no experience in teaching, he gave me what he called an easy job teaching second standard. On the roster, there was no Roland Purcell, but there were 30 other students. About 2 weeks into my teaching, this young man came and plopped down in the front bench of my class and said he wanted to be there. I sent him back to his class, which was first standard, but he kept coming back until Mr. Sylvester, the principal, came, got him, and decided to give him a test to see if he had the ability to do the work of second standard. So he brought him up to the stage in this open building that we had. And the only thing he had on his desk at the time to give this young man a test was a copy of the West Indian newspaper. So he pointed out an article on the front page and asked Roland to read this article to him. Now, Roland had just come back from Curacao, and he had been going to school in Curacao where the language spoken was Papiamento. And he only knew English from his parents speaking it at home. And he read the article. Amazingly, he read the article without any error. At the bottom of the article, it said, turn to page 5 or whatever, and Roland turned to page 5. And Mr. Sylvester's glasses fell off his face. He brought Roland back to my class and he said to me, this is a diamond in the rough. If he wants to stay here, fine. If he wants to go to the 5th standard, let him go. That's the Roland I remember. In class, every orifice in his body was open to absorb knowledge. He just wanted to learn. He never gave any problems. never gave any problems, always the best student. He topped his class. And that's the Roland that grew up into a man, always following the rules, never breaking the law, always honest, always hardworking, and always learning.
Let us talk about your encounter with Dr. Purcell post primary school, and I suspect you followed his journey into his interest in medicine and his subsequent training. Let's talk about your experiences there with him.
Yes. Well, it's secondary school. I don't know much about that. Chester Humphrey is the one that can tell you a whole lot about that, because he and Chester became lifelong friends from his stay in GBSS. I was in contact with him occasionally whilst he was at UWI, but post UWI, we met again in Grenada in 1980 when I went home to Grenada to work for the revolution. At the time, he was the medical doctor that was taking care of prisoners. And he complained to me one time that he was a little bit disappointed with the treatment of some of the prisoners up at the prison by the agents of the revolution, because some of the prisoners were complaining about being tortured and stuff. And he felt that he had had sufficient evidence of torture, and that caused him to decide to leave Grenada. And that's when he came to the United States in 80 or 81. I don't remember the exact year that he came. Mm-hmm.
But even immigrating to the United States and the work that he did in the context of his medical training, he never forgot his community. And based on everything that I know about Dr. Purcell, he was embedded in the diasporic immigrant community in Brooklyn.
Yes, he was. He was. And one of the things that he always would say to me is that he could never abandon the values that he acquired in the Virgin Parish. And that would guide him through his life, throughout his life. It was a philosophy of service, of helping, of always putting others first, which he did in his medical practice. He never thought about making a whole lot of money out of his medical practice. He thought about healing people. He thought about caring for them. He was a giant of a man.
Absolutely. And at this point, I want to welcome again, I call him Uncle Ray. I've known Raymond Beast Matthew for a long time, for a very long time. We go way back. But Beast, you got to know Dr. Purcell at a very critical time in your life. And of course, you know, as many in the Grenadian community, I suspect you were also shocked at the news of his passing. And it happened at a time when, of course, he was also attending to patients. And of course, can you talk about your experience with Dr. Purcell at that very critical moment in your life when he came to render medical support to you?
All right. Good morning to you again, and to all your viewers. So in 2022, you know, I was diagnosed with kidney problems, kidney failure, and they placed a catheter on my left side of my chest here, and but during the process, I started to do dialysis here in Grenada. But I realized that after a while, doing dialysis. All the other patients, they were up and healthy and walking strong, but I was always drunk after a time. So I went back to the hospital and I said to them, no, something is not right, because all are looking at the other patients and they're looking good, they're strong, but I always are driving on the wrong side of the road and things like that, And they said to me, different patients have different symptoms. And stuff. Anyhow, one of my friends, Frances Purcell, which is Dr. Purcell's sister, I spoke to her, and she said she introduced me to her brother, and he said, come up, get your passport and visa and stuff, and come up, I'll take care of you. I didn't know the brother, never met him before and stuff. Long story short, I had some issues with my visa, but that got sorted out by the now Prime Minister. And I went to New York. I reached up there the Monday. I went to see him on the Tuesday. And when I walked into the room, he looked at me and his face changed. I mean, being a police officer, I could have tell you that something wasn't right.
Something was up with that body language there.
Body language, And that brother took care of me. And he said to me, I'm not sending you back home. You're going straight to the hospital. I said, I'm in your hands. And if you want to send me to heaven or hell anyway, I'm going there. And he did send me there immediately. But before I left, I said to him, Doc, I walk in and you're not telling me something, because I realized your body language changed when you saw me. And he said to me, you're walking here a dead man. And
yes, this is certainly very emotional. This is indeed. He saved your life.
He saved my life.
Yes. Let's pause to acknowledge. Let's pause to acknowledge this moment. Mr. James, of course, you are seeing the emotion there in a Grenadian cultural icon there, Beast, Raymond Matthew Beast.
I know who he is very well.
Yes.
Yes. And Doc spoke to me about him too.
Yeah, so talk about the impact of Dr. Purcell in the Grenadian community in Brooklyn. I mean, everyone that I spoke to, even in my own family, of course, you know my family from St. David's too, they articulated how much he served his community. He would be at his office for hours on end, sometimes late into the night, seeing patients, sometimes patients who did not have insurance, patients who could not afford the care. Yes?
His practice was to heal, not to make money. That man dedicated his life to his profession. I think he died doing what he wanted to do, and doing what he loved to do. He had just finished surgery on a patient when he felt the pain in his chest and the weakness in his arm. At first, he thought it was a stroke he was getting. But then the assistant helped him to a chair. He could not even sit on a chair. So the assistant had to put him on a gurney, made an emergency call, and had all the surgeons and stuff rushing into the operating room to try to save his life. Even in the gurney, as life was seeping out of his body, he was directing them which side to take his pulse, what to do and what not to do. He practiced medicine to the last breath. That's what he lived for. That's what he did. He's irreplaceable. Irreparable is that loss. Grenada has lost a giant of a man. I had people in Grenada who were having problems that couldn't be resolved at home. I have called Roland on several occasions and asked him, if this patient comes up, will he take care? Alva, just send them up. Just send them up. No charge. His philosophy was, and his policy was, if you come from Grenada to America to get medical assistance and you stopped at his office, you did not have to pay a dime. When I would beseech him, come take a break, Roland. Come down home. Come stay with me. Stay with my brother Spread Joy, whom he loved. He loved Spread Joy. He loved Spread Joy's lifestyle. Roland would ask me, and when I'm gone, Alva, on this vacation, who is going to take care of my patients? And I would say to Roland, you have to take care of yourself in order to be able to take care of others. I know that, Alva, but I can't leave. Such a dedicated man. I don't know what else I can say about this individual, but I know that we as a people have lost a giant of a man. And I don't think we will get another one like Roland for a very long time to come. They don't make them anymore. They don't make them like him anymore.
You're absolutely correct, Ray. You heard Mr. James say, and he said they don't make them like him anymore, and this is so profound. Dr. Purcell in many ways reminds me of the late Dr. Thomas as well. Remember Dr. Thomas, Ray?
Yes, and he was a good friend of my family again.
Yeah.
Also. And I don't know the brother there. I don't think I know him, but I know he knows me. But what he said is so true. This man is a different breed of Grenadian. And I have seen people, the first thing that caught me is that when he told me to come and visit him, I had to go 6 p.m. But in Grenada, we don't accustomed going and see doctor that kind of time.
That late? No, not at all.
What kind of man, what kind of doctor is that? Not realizing, he had his workload cut out. And the first time I went into his office, I met about 25 people. I saw Grenadians that
you haven't seen in a long time, right?
I've not seen in a long time.
Yeah.
I saw Grenadians that I had left in Grenada. I said, what you doing here? They say, well, I come up, Dr. Purcell say, come up, so I come and see Dr. Purcell. So people was leaving Grenada, as your brother just said, to go up to see him on his command, right? And what amazed me is that when he said that you're not sending me back home, you're not going back home, and sending you straight to the hospital, he got on the phone and he made a call to the hospital. And then Dr. Bub, I was brought to the hospital by my friend John Crow, and the treatment I got in the hospital there, under his guidance, he told them what was supposed to be done, what to look for, and stuff, and they treated me as though, well, you know, well, I must say, I turned an American citizen, you know, and he kept tabs on me, and you know, when I came from hospital, I had to go back and check him also, because my hernia started to act up. And that hernia was acting since in Grenada, but they gave me about 3 or 4 months to come back to get it repaired. So he realized I was in a lot of pain, and he gave me an appointment to come back, and he took care of that. But one of the things that amazed me also is that when you go into his office, he puts on the music, Grenadian music.
I remember that. Yeah.
You know, that this man had Grenadian music from way back. And it was so, you know, fulfilling. And it was like a healing. Right?
Yeah.
Now, I went to him after the hernia and stuff, and I said, you know, Doc, I'm going back. It's getting cold, and I miss my family. I want to go back. So he said, okay. And he gave me all the guidance and stuff. When I came back, a number of persons in Grenada here were also coming up with kidney problems. And there was a shortage of catheters in the hospital. They didn't have the mechanism to place on patients. And you know, my wife said, why you don't call Dr. Purcell? And I did. And I said to him, listen, you have a lot of patients down here, and the hospital doesn't have the necessary equipment for patients. And he said, okay. And I think he sent down about 10 catheters for patients. Somebody was coming to Grenada, and he asked them to put it in their luggage, and they did. As a matter of fact, I collected it right on the airport, and I handed it over to Dr. Houston. And right now I have 2. I don't use them, but I have them just in case. Just in case, you know, some patient or somebody
would need
needs
it.
That he always send it to me. So I hand it over to the hospital when they need it. I haven't heard them call me in a while now, but I still have here. And this man was just as the brother say, a different doctor.
Yeah.
He makes sure that he says he won't. And you know, I spoke to Scholar, and also Scholar had an encounter with him, and he had some issue with something in his back, and he operated on that, and Scholar is doing well. He was just getting ready to go back up to him to do a checkup and stuff, and we got the news. As a matter of fact, someone called me and told me, asked me, what you hear? I said, well, I ain't hear nothing. I know. And the person they didn't want to speak to me. They didn't want to tell me because they know how close we are. So I got upset. I said, listen, you called me quite from America to ask me what I hear, and then you go just walk out.
And then you ain't go say anything, yeah.
Yeah. And he said, Dr. Purcell died. So I said, when I said Dr. Purcell, who because I know there are 2 siblings that are doctors. His sister is also a doctor.
Correct.
Right. She said, Roland Purcell. And I went cold. I called Scholar. He too went cold because he tell me just last week he bought his ticket and he spoke to him. You know, we always laugh because he loved his Grenadian Woodman drink and his punch a cream with the Grenada flag on it. He was a Grenadian to his heart. Everything about Grenada. You know,
a consummate patriot, a consummate patriot.
Yes.
Consummate patriot.
I want to send my condolences to his family, especially Frances Purcell.
Yeah, and she's watching the program right now too.
You know, and
yes.
Also, Rihanna did. I want to say hi to her, and I know she was very close to Dr. Purcell.
Yeah.
He will always be in my heart. I haven't spoken to the Prime Minister, but one of the things I'll be lobbying for in this new hospital that we get in there, is coming, that his name be mentioned, his name be etched in some way in that hospital. He was a Grenadian doctor that loved his people, that loved his country, and he did much for us. And I must tell Grenada, I mean, after God, that's the man that has me alive today.
Dr. Purcell, absolutely. Beast, I share your sentiment. In fact, quite frankly, I don't think we need to have names of Princess Alice and Princess Royal hospitals anymore. There are Grenadian nurses, doctors, people like Dr. Purcell, Dr. Thomas, the late Louis Clarkson of blessed memory, such a wonderful nurse. The nurses and doctors who braved their lives on that fateful day on October 19th, 1983. We need to be renaming a lot of our hospital facilities after our own heroes. Princess Alice, Princess Royal, these people know nothing about Grenada. They have contributed nothing to Grenada, and I will continue to beat that drum, that we name our institutions in Grenada after heroes like Dr. Purcell, Dr. Thomas, the late Louis Clarkson, etc., etc., etc.
And trust me, I want to make a commitment. I want to beat that drum with you. And as long as there's life in my body, Calypso, I'll return to Calypso, and his name will be mentioned.
Yes, absolutely. Uncle Ray, thank you so much. And of course, Mr. James, I want to also offer you an opportunity, sir, for some closing comments before we get to the next segment, sir. And again, thank you. You finally cracked the mystery of who my family is there, Mr. James.
Yes, but I want to clear up something with Beast. Beast knows who I am. I spoke to Beast before. I am Spreadjoy's brother.
Okay. So, all right. Sorry, my apology. I know who it is now.
Okay. I didn't want you to go away believing that you didn't know me. You know me quite well.
Yes. You in Grenada now?
No, I'm in Brooklyn.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay. When I come to Grenada, I'll come visit you.
Yes, and let me promise you, when Trump is when he slows down, or we get rid of him, you'll see.
Let's like Dr. Mitchell not go there.
but Mr. James, before you go, I do want to put you on the spot here, sir. Last night on background when we were having conversation for this program, because I do my homework before before any type of program that we produce here. You articulated, and of course, as you hear, my dearly departed cousin Rupert Ambrose. You said you knew him well, and that you also served in the St. David community. So for those in St. David who do not know you, as you said, you taught at the St. David's RC School, but what else did you do in our communities?
Not very much besides living. I worked for the revolution. I worked for the revolution from 1980 until its demise.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And it was not specifically for St. David's. It was for the nation, the indigenous nation state that we were trying to build during that revolution.
And I know you said you were also close to, is it Unison Whiteman?
He was my blood brother. I met Uni many, many moons ago at a Maroon in Syracuse. He was already in Presentation College. I was still in St. David's RC School. That is how far back it went. And he was a friend of Spread Joy and my brother Curtis, who died in Presentation College at age 14. So when I got to Presentation College, he was an upper class man already, and protocol in those days didn't permit for Form 1 to deal with Form 3 boys and that kind of stuff. So I met up with Uni in Washington, D.C. at Howard University in the 60s. And we happened to stay at the same building in D.C. at 1931 16th Street, Northwest. And that's where we bonded and became fast friends.
Is that where you met my cousin Rupert?
Yes, because that's what Rupert was staying in the same building. Rupert was sharing with a fellow from St. David's by the name of Gerald Haling. Uni was on a different floor in the same building, sharing with one Dr. Spencer. Then Rupert's sister, Jean, lived a floor above. So it was a kind of Grenadian community in that place there. So Unison had always wanted to be involved in the creation of an indigenous nation state in Grenada whenever it became independent, because I'm talking to you about 1963 onwards, even before independence came, long before independence came, but shortly after the demise of the West Indies Federation. And from that time, he started organizing his thoughts and what have you about how the nation should be structured and built in Grenada. And I was like his sounding board. So we bonded and remained friends until his death in 1983.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, please. Yes.
Well, I had kept a promise to him when he was leaving Washington in 1969 to come back home to start the Jewel movement, that if he ever came into power and he needed me, I would come join him. When the revolution succeeded in 1979, I was assigned to the Hong Kong office of a major financial institution in the United States. And that's where he and Morris got on the phone and called me and said, time to come home. Because the key project that the government was undertaking, the airport, needed to be financed. And I was in international financing in Hong Kong. So I packed my bags and went home and stayed until 1983 when the revolution imploded.
There's some very important institutional history there. So I do want to bring you back on the program, especially to talk about the Morris Bishop Airport's financing and you know, because that was a critical component of it. Of course, we know the contributions of Cuba, but we also knew the contributions of Libya in financing the airport, Cuba providing the engineering and other support for it as well, the labor support critically. But I would love to pick your brain, sir, on another occasion with respect to how you navigated geopolitics at that time, financing, raising financing for an international airport in a Cold War era. That must have been very interesting there, and particular weaving of different, I suppose, relationships that you had to build at the time. So thank you so much for your service to Grenada. And of course, most importantly, Mr. James, thank you for your tribute today to Dr. Purcell.
And I will only come back to your show if you call me Alva.
Okay, Alva. Yes.
Thank you kindly.
Is that how my dear cousin Rupert called you, Alva? Everyone knew you.
Yes,
Alva?
sir. Yes, sir. That's
you said you went to Presentation College as well. What house were you in? Dominican, Fimba, Patrician, Aquinian? Do you remember that?
I think it was Presentation College. I was in Fimba House.
Oh, you were in Fimba House. So you and Dr. Mitchell were in the same house.
Don't go there, Mitchell.
Yes, don't go there, Mitchell. Yes. He was in Fimba as well. He's a Fimba man. Fimba is Yellow House, by the way.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, at least we share Fimba.
I'm sure he would like to hear that. And finally, was your principal, was it Brother Ligori? Brother Leonard? No. I know Rupert spoke a lot about Brother Leonard.
Brother Leonard, Eggies.
Egghead, yes. Egghead, yes.
Yes, Egghead Leonard, yes.
Absolutely. Alva, thank you again.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. All viewers and listeners, this was, of course, a very important segment. We do want to get to some of your comments as we close off this segment. Nelkel is saying, Alva and Beast gave great tribute to Dr. Purcell. He helped so many of my family and friends in Brooklyn. As Alva stated, it's not about getting rich, it's about healing. Alan George, another commenter, is saying Roland was the best. Revolutionary to the bone. First brother to return to Grenada to serve during the revolution. I concur, Dr. Bub. Beast, you are the best. Mr. James, St. David's to the world. Right? And then Alan is saying, I believe Alan George is saying, that's my peeps, of course, St. David's, St. David's, I'm a true St. David patriot, even though I do also have Four Roads roots, right? And of course, Gerald is from Providence. History. Very good, sir. Let's see. Ali George is saying, well, hearing these names my dad mentioned. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service to my brother there. Let's see who else. Somebody else is saying, Dr. Purcell helped my brother when he was told in Grenada that he would need a pacemaker. Dr. Purcell saw him, sent him to the hospital. He is fine now on a pacemaker. Let's go to some other comments here. Tributes to Dr. Purcell. Kent Joseph, of course, Kent Joseph saying, condolences to Sister Frances Purcell and the family of Dr. Purcell. May his great, kind soul rest in peace. Bob Marisher is saying, Mr. Matthews, thousands of people share your sentiments and would force the government to so do, of course, in memorializing and honoring Dr. Purcell and the other many Grenadian health professionals who've given yeoman service, including Dr. Thomas. Richie is saying, Richard Nichols is saying, good day, I was sick and a friend sent me to him and he never turned me away. He held me now, I'm well, thanks to Dr. Purcell. Of course, that has been the constant sentiment here, the constant sentiment with respect to Dr. Purcell's life and legacy of service to the Grenadian and the Caribbean community. Clairvoy Depredin is saying, immense loss to the Grenadian community and the wider healthcare fraternity of New York, Brooklyn specifically. The likes of Dr. Purcell and Dr. Thomas were defined by service. That's what it absolutely was about. And again, Devaney Leo is saying, thank you, Alva. We would like to hear you again. My condolences to Dr. Purcell's family. Okay. All right. So what we want to do now, folks, is to take our first break of the week. And we are going to come back for the panel segment. So please stand by for that conversation. You are a technocrat. I mean, you can speak to whether or not it was appropriate or inappropriate for that to occur. Would you have done that as a permanent secretary?
Politicians get the information from wherever source that they can.
That's going to be the extent of your answer.
Yeah.
Don't go there.
There's a lot of noise around the data protection bill that, in my respectful view, is not warranted.
I was one of those making noise, and it's simply because I was concerned about that specific section 33.
Don't go there.
Are you going to be offering yourself up as political leader of the party?
I see you've called me have a much more than diplomatic passport. I don't mind that.
Don't go there.
What is the relationship like between you and your leader, Dr. Mitchell, your boss, Dr. Mitchell?
I'm not sure how to explain how to answer this question at this time. I prefer not to answer.
Don't go there.
They said that you approached the bank for the loan before the election and that it only materialized after the election. There are also conflicting reports around the quantity of monies that were received. What is the reality here?
People try to extort the truth and to make all kinds of things about it. I just stay quiet. So if you notice, I was really and truly quiet about the whole matter.
Well, except with not with the New Today newspaper. The New Today newspaper reported on this, so I'm not sure you were quiet on this. Go ahead, Honorable. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just trying to answer your question, right?
Don't go there.
I think we just spoke at length about the regularization framework. So
yes, we did. But let us talk, Prime Minister. Let us talk about the workers who are dismissed.
The Bub Report. We go there.
Because I get persecuted, don't watch Wakobia. I like to Wakobia. Trust me. Anybody say I does Wakobia, I like to pick up my buck, my calabash with my salt. When I see them and go and start to chew salt, just chew salt. And ring my bell, call my bell and ring my bell. You understand? I want to take up my candle and go and start to pray. Almighty and everlasting God, have mercy upon them. Mercy, I ask, mercy, I plead. I want to take up my glass with my water and ask God to send Michael the Archangel to stand by the entrance of my gate to prevent me from the wickedness and the bad tongue of the people. You could touch me and say anything with me, but as long as my God is real, He is real indeed.
And folks, again, I just want to acknowledge Happy Shelter Baptists, happy Orisha Liberation Day. Of course, that is observed only in Trinidad and Tobago. But of course, I believe it's a marquee acknowledgement of the oppression and the prejudice and really the criminalization of the only indigenous faith tradition of African descent that our ancestors brought to the Caribbean. That still continues to be demonized and marginalized. And so my aunt of blessed memory, Carol Williams, was an avid member of the Spiritual Baptist faith. And today I also remember and acknowledge her. But before we get to the next segment, I do know that Beast wanted to add one quick comment. So Beast, I will give you an opportunity to do that now.
Thank you again.
Yes.
I just want to say to my Grenadian community, whether in diaspora or here, based on some advice that Dr. Purcell gave to me, we have to be so careful of how we eat, what we eat, and how we drink. I know we've been trained from what we eating bad. We keep eating the wrong things. Too much sugar, too much salt, and we need to take some more time for ourselves, the way we take care of our bodies and stuff. I know some people, they dip into work. They don't take time for themselves. They don't go, They don't go in the sea and bathe. They don't have time. But we need to look at ourselves, and also to our medical team here, doctors and nurses and stuff. The whole issue is about caring also for patients. The way we care for our patients here, the way we speak to patients here. Imagine you're sick and you go to the hospital, you know, a nurse will have a bad day and she rough you up and stuff. Make the problem even more problems. You understand? So
yeah.
Let us take health care. I mean, we are approaching and the era of having a new teaching hospital. I hope and I pray that our professionals be more mindful of the job, the type of job they have to do. And I also want my people, or Grenadian people, to be mindful of how you eat, how you drink, how we take care of our bodies and stuff. And that's my advice to them.
Yes, absolutely. That is very important and sage advice. I absolutely agree with you. Yes, B. So thank you again for appearing on the program, sir. And thank you for your service to the national community as well, in law enforcement and in the arts.
Anytime.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So viewers and listeners, we want to get straight into it. Of course, this segment, we title it People, Politics and Power. And we are putting Grenadian issues under the microscope. Of course, Grenadian issues here in the context of recent political developments in Grenada. Of course, we have had the launch of a new political party. We have also had, speaking of launches, the launch of new caretaker candidates, high-profile launches by the opposition New National Party. If you look at the current slate of the opposition New National Party with respect to their caretaker candidate list, most of the list are actually newcomers, new faces to the political process in Grenada. Of course, this is also happening against a backdrop of potential hustings of an election this year. We don't know, of course, the Prime Minister is the one that will have to make that determination. But of course, this is the 4th year of the National Democratic Congress's tenure in office since the 2022 election. And from time to time, what we try to do here on the Bub Report is to assemble a panel of commentators, journalists, observers, folks who are on the ground observing the politics to make sense of these issues. We always attempt as best as possible to ensure that we strike a balance and to ensure that all views are represented. Historically and traditionally on the Bub Report, William Joseph in the past served as a commentator here for us. Unfortunately, he is no longer able to do so owing to other commitments that prevents him from doing so. In the past, we have had Michael Batiste. We have also had Larry Barry as well in the past. Just as a programming note, we did reach out to have an NDC representative on the program. And that person was Mr. Larry Barry. Of course, Mr. Larry Barry has not responded to any of our calls or messages. We have been trying to reach him. So, Mr. Barry, I'm calling you out now. You know that we actually attempted to have a representative of the NDC on the program this morning, or somebody who is sympathetic to the government's cause, to the NDC party's cause, but unfortunately, we came up short. So for this segment, we do have, of course, political commentator Jenny Simon of Simon Says. Of course, Ms. Simon, you're probably in Grenada, you know, you're like a two-edged sword. It's either people really, really love you, they really love what you do, or on the other hand, they really despise you. It's like,
and you know, the people that really despise me now used to really, really love me.
And that's the point, right? That's the point. It's just the politics is always interesting. Yeah. Of course, we have Raw Titus here, journalist. Now, Miss Simon, Raw Titus, he would not like to be labeled as being a member of DPM, or the movement people, right? As you said on the last occasion you were here, but he's here to provide sort of a balanced perspective in his view on issues affecting Grenada and the national community. Of course, our third guest, he's running late. That's Mr. Peter Wickham. Peter will be joining us shortly to also provide context and commentary on some of the developments that are animating conversation and discourse in Grenada at this time. So, ladies and gentlemen, we do want to begin by talking about the latest developments first. And that has to do with the launch of the Democratic People's Movement. But Ms. Simon, I want to begin with you on this question, because I do remember that you were also part of the launch of a third party in Grenada, which never really went anywhere. And at the time, your theory of the case and the theory of the case of those who were involved in the formation of that third party is that Grenada thirsts for a third party option, that Grenadians were essentially very fed up of sort of the two-party dichotomy that exists in the country. So my question to you is, should you not be happy that we have a third party in the country, notwithstanding the circumstances? Of course, we have to acknowledge the circumstances under which it came about, but it's here. Your thoughts?
Now, when you say should I not be happy, are you saying that I'm unhappy about it?
So you're saying you're happy about it? Are you?
I have no issues with
it. Well, the reason why I'm framing it this way is because I do know that you've had difficulty with the leader of the DPM in your commentary. You've not been very charitable to Mr. David, shall we say?
Well, okay, no, that's a whole different story, and that's a whole 3-4 shows. But I have no issues with third party. I have no issues with third party. Of course, as you said, rightly so, I was part of what should have been a new third party. But just to say then, though, that when the TGM came about, it was first just a group of like-minded persons. And at the time, the NDC was at the bottom of the barrel. They had hit rock bottom. As a matter of fact, there was really no NDC, if you want to say that. And so TGM was probably going to be like a second party instead of a third party then. And we actually rarely had NDC against the rope. We did. And of course, it didn't materialize. It didn't go further. But yeah, I have no issues with third party. None whatsoever.
So let us talk about this particular Democratic People's Movement. I almost said TGM.
No, there are lots more parties out there too, huh?
Yes. So, but let us talk about what this third party is articulating here with respect to notions that Grenada, in fact, needs a break from the two-party dichotomy that currently exists.
And who's going to give us that break?
The DPM is saying that they are. So I want to get your perspective on that.
Base, they have a following that can give us that? Do they have a base? Where's their base? They have the people that could give us that break we need. At the end of the day, Kenroy, even...
Kellen, not Kenroy, please. Don't go there.
Yes, sorry. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
At the end of the day, it boils back down to NDC and NMP. That's how I see it at this point in time. The party, I would say DPM needs to grow. There needs another... If Mr. David had done that in 2012, when he turned his back on Nuff, then we would have had a viable third party now at the moment. But we need some more, they need some more years, and I mean, it's just obvious.
Yes, Enough Fair, meaning National United Front, that was formed by Glenys Roberts. And interesting, I saw that.
Roberts. She became the leader, the interim leader. But Nuff wasn't formed by Glenys Roberts.
Oh, it was not. I mean, you were around at that time for that split. So
Nuff was formed by the group, the same group. And if you see, there's a clip that raised its face on Facebook now with Ali Gill, attorney at law. at that first meeting in
where he famously said, "Open up the parliament." Where he called
right,
Tillman Thomas,
right.
"Open up the
It was
parliament."
a grouping. It was a grouping. It wasn't formed by Glenys. Glenys was the interim leader. She was used as the interim leader in waiting for Peter David.
Let us get to Roll. Roll, of course, you attended the launch of the Democratic People's Movement. So I want to get your take on it in the context of third parties in Grenada. And of course, when I interviewed Mr. David on previous occasions, I pressed him that, you know, there might not be an appetite anymore for a third party in the country. And of course, he tried to justify it to say, well, you know, yes, we had the People's Alliance. And then he said, you know, of course, the NDC was formed out of a third party as well, a third party dynamic. But what I would say is post 1999, post the NNP clean sweep era, third parties in Grenada has not been a thing. I mean, you know, Dr. Francis Alexis tried it with the PLM. Remember the PLM and the Key, the People's Labor Movement? Remember that? That went nowhere. Of course, you also had sort of an alliance that came together again to contest the 1999 elections. That also went nowhere. So let us talk about what you saw at the DPM Congress, is what they called it, in the context of how it may impact the political landscape in Grenada. Is that appetite there or in other words, are there disaffected Grenadians at such a critical mass that would cause a third party to be emergent?
Okay, let me say good morning, guys. Morning, cousin Jenny. Ladies first. Good morning, Dr. Bob.
Oh, that's your cousin. I didn't know that was your cousin. Look at
you
that.
always hear me call her cousin Jenny. Right, and let me just take 5 seconds to say,
yes,
recognize my colleague and friend Linda Straker. You made recognition of her. I just spoke to her 5 minutes ago. I'm staying, you know, we go way back in terms of media and friendship. So I just want to put that out there. Speedy recovery.
Thank you. Speedy recovery to Linda. Linda,
working with you, working with the family and everything. So let me just put that out there. Now, there's a couple of scenarios here. There's always been two main parties orbiting and seeking ascendancy and power and governance in Grenada. That's a given. But there's always been many parties competing for that space, right? And you go back to the GNP days, we could call a list of parties and personalities. At this moment in our history, in our political history, I think we're in a sort of semi-transitionary phase in terms of moving in a particular direction. There's the NDC, who is in government now. And don't be fooled, they're still fighting for the space. There's the NNP, which has had a particular dominance. There's the emergence of Peter David's movement, which I think is having an impact on NNP in terms of could potentially ruin their chances or affect them in certain seats. So I think the outcome of this election, this is the first time we've had a kind of scenario like we're having now going into a general election, where three political parties are fighting for space. Yes, NDC was struggling a lot. Deacon Mitchell provided some buoyancy and boost to NDC, right? NNP was basically on a high. Peter David's movement away from it has had an impact on it, whether we like it or not, when you look at the numbers. Now, against all of this, we have a situation where from 2022 to now, we have over 5,000 new voters registered. Where are they going to cast their support? That's another issue. Additionally, we've had, when you look at who voted, 60,000 people voted last election from 86,000. So 26,000 roughly who did not vote. A significant, how much of them will cast votes this time? Who will they vote for? Would they vote for movement? Would they vote for NP? So there are a lot of, I believe there are a lot of dynamics that are at play here that's going to affect the outcome of this, of the coming up election. And possibly then, based on the outcome of the next election, then we're going to start to see possibly two parties holding the dominant orbit space. That's what I think.
But Raul, if past this prologue, I don't understand how your analysis here makes sense. Again, going back to the third party, the attempts at successful third parties in Grenada. I mean, somebody just reminded me. I think it's Elimas Inspector Gilbert. Good morning, Specky. Good morning. He reminds us of the Morris Bishop Patriotic Movement. Incidentally, that was led, I believe Mr. Andel was involved in that, Joseph Andel, right?
Right.
Of course, the great Morris Bishop, right? What other name recognition do you need but Morris Bishop? Right. And that went nowhere.
So what is it you don't understand?
What I don't understand is what makes the movement different, or what conditions exist on the ground now that would create an appetite for a third party. Because the way that Mr. David frames this is that, one third party would emerge and then the one may fall off.
Well, I frame it by saying that we're in transition. I'm not conclusive about what's happening at this point in time.
Okay, I see.
And let's be honest, none of us know what ultimately the picture will look like after the general election. There's a lot of things happening here. There's an NDC that's in power, right? They're doing some things, they're not doing some things. They're under a lot of pressure here and so on. They want to change candidates here. There's an NNP who's bringing on some new, who has dominated for years. They're bringing on some new people. They have been bleeding through because Peter David moved from them. These are the scenarios. These are what we all saw. How this is going to impact, that's what I'm saying. That's the unknown factor. We don't know the impact. A lot of NNP people have moved to Peter David. Peter David has moved with his people, yes, and a lot.
But there are those who are some NDC who have sympathies for NDC as well who have moved to him.
Yeah, fine enough. So I'm saying in all this carnival of political scenarios, here,
I like that. Jab in Parliament.
We will be foolish to assume that we know what this particular outcome would be. So this is why I'm saying we're in a bit of a transition now. It could well be that maybe Deacon's bolstering NDC could bring them to victory. Right, NNP could bounce back. It could well be that movement could hurt NNP so much that that movement emerge as a potential opposition. We can go in many different directions. So this is why I'm saying my narrative is that we are at the transition phase in terms of what the potential outcome could be.
Ms. Simon, your theory of the case, of course, you're on the ground in Grenada.
I didn't hear Raul say that NNP could emerge winner as well. NDC could, he said, and DPM could damage NNP so much that they can. What happened to NNP? What happened to NNP? Now,
let me respond.
Hold on, you come back.
Hold on. Let him finish.
I'll come back.
And he said a lot of NNPs has moved to the DPM. Raul, when you come back, I want to know what you term a lot. But after the last election, when some NNP supporters, and a good few, voted for the NDC and realize what they've done, there is a resurgence of NNP base right now, back into the house. And all they're talking about is the love in the house, right? And I can say here that I do not believe there's enough bleeding, so to speak, as they term it, of NNP to cause them to not win the next election. NNP has the biggest base. NNP has a base that is 10,000 more than NDC. 10,000 more. DPM do not have a base. You have a Congress and you ask people from the different constituency to come to be delegates. I know persons who went to be delegates and that's all they said. They asked them to come and be a delegates and they went. So even if you say 20 persons, and I'm giving them 20 each constituency when I know there wasn't that a figure for each constituency, right? If you give them 20 persons, you give them 300 people in what they call a Congress. How does that take them to the top? Where is your base? I am so waiting to see DPM call a rally, even if it's a pocket meeting by the Saturday, because right now they're still in the yard. So when they come out of the yard, I would like to see their base. You cannot win an election if you don't have a base. In any constituency in Grenada, the smallest one, which might be the tongue of St. George, the candidate wins by with more than 1,000 votes. So if you have 20 people, 100 people by a rum shop, as the deputy said, which it wasn't 100 people what I saw, but if you have 100 people by a rum shop, that cannot win you an election. And I thought it's so funny to hear how the thing is broken up. And DPM go win 5, NDC go win 7. When you ask them, who are these 5 or who is the 7? They can't say. But people are just out there saying all sorts of crazy things. This is the first time we're going to have a coalition. Says who? NMP not going into an election looking for a coalition. NMP is going in there to win. And that's why they're pulling out all these persons, right? And the better looking team, we could say what we want. Right now, NMP has the better looking team going into the next election. So why did they get left out? Why are they at the bottom? Why are they the dark horse all of a sudden? But only time will tell.
Well, time will tell. Absolutely. Go ahead, Roland. Yes, you wanted to add something there. Yes, Roland.
No. Jenny is saying a lot of things that she thinks is conclusive. I'm not. That's not where I'm going. I'm not going there. I'm looking at what exists now. What exists now? NDC want. There's some fundamental points. Of course, you can't win an election without a base, but there's some fundamental points. Justin Pierre's poll said 3,000 or more NNP supporters voted for NDC last election to help NDC win. You have to look at that. Does NNP have them back now? By Jenny's logic, maybe yes. Last election, 1,000 persons plus voted for NDC, and NNP got 28,000 plus votes. Now, in a scenario where you have 5,000 new voters from 2022, how is that going to impact? So you have to look at all these things, and then against the philosophy of all politics is local, there are different things happening in the constituency. Can NNP win 8 seats? What's NNP path towards 8 seats? Maybe Jenny can tell me what's NDC's path towards getting 8 seats. Listen, the point I am making is that this is the first time we have a dynamic like this, where 3 parties are battling to get into government, right? You have to give NDC pole position because they are the incumbent and they have resources. But whether or not they're going to win, it's still up in the air based on what's happening now. We're not yet into the campaigning election. A bell hasn't been rung yet, and we're not.
If you look at the opposition, you would think that they are in campaign mode, right?
Well, let's be honest. The opposition, to be fair to the opposition, i.e. NNP too, they have done a lot of work to. And you see, this is the thing: the longer you hold out, meaning the longer you take to call it, I think it tends to potentially favor opposition organization and reorganization. And then of course, a lot of the people who talk, some people think we're headed for a hung parliament. No, I do not know. Maybe Jenny is confident. I'm happy for her confidence, but I think we are at a phase where we are very unpredictable phase in Grenada's politics. And a lot of dynamics are at play here. It's not just it's not a straightforward scenario. It's not a straightforward scenario.
And that's what I am saying. It's not straightforward. What you did, Roland, was left out NMP, and that's all I'm saying. Why did you leave them out as if they're not in the game?
So you get that?
No, I'm not vexed. I am saying bring them in because they are
bring them into the equation is what Miss Simon is saying.
Yeah,
but
NMP yes, please. We're all talking about the new voters. We always had new voters. The new voters are not strays. As a matter of fact, when you have new voters, they belong to somebody, and as we could say, who was either NNP or NDC. Their parents, that's who the new voters normally are, right?
Of course, we don't know who they're gonna vote.
Voters that know they might be, they have their families are with DPM, and so we might have we have new voters there. but the new voters does not belong to any one party.
We don't know where they're going to cast their votes.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying.
Because Jenny, remember the days.
One party.
Remember the days.
I know there are new voters who belong to the NDC, and I know there are new voters who belong to the NMP. I don't know if any belong to the DPM yet, because I don't really know.
Right. But you have to, but you have to entertain the philosophy that new voters now, new young voters, people eligible to vote now, they have a different thinking. They have a different. Remember back in the days, you say, okay, that house there is a Gary Wright house, and every man Jack voted for Gary. Or that house there is a NLP house, every man Jack voting for. You have a modern generation with a different thinking. So in a house, Jenny, in a house, you have NLP. Okay, let's suppose this is an NLP house. The generation and the next generation, and they don't necessarily have the same loyalties as their parents.
They
right?
may not, as
they
well as
not.
they can be.
As well as they may. So that's an unpredictable bunch.
And they do have a different thinking, and the different thinking is they no longer believe in the rum and corned beef campaign.
Right.
That, people can't just pull wool over their eyes. I mean, after the last election, if Grenadians allow people to hoodwink them into voting for bucket truck picking fruits and all this,
or ice cream and cake.
Right. So the point I'm making is, yes, they're different, but they're different for everybody. We have no freshness and no newness with DPM. And when you look at the people that is holding up DPM, Grenadians would probably want to run for their lives, because these people been there with the revolution, right? And that's what we're seeing at the top. When I look at my sister Glenys Pay, and Glenys
Roberts, yes.
Glenys Roberts, standing on a stage with DPM posing, and I think she's the treasurer. I my heart bled. And I'm saying that to say, I'm like, I actually said it. She has battered wife syndrome to be on that stage there, posing with DPM. And hold on, and only 3.5 years ago, almost 4 years ago, standing on a platform in the South for the NNP, plainly said she's not the NNP, she's supporting, she is still the leader of NUF.
Of NUF, yes.
So I want to know now, my question is, what happened to NUF? Was NUF dissolved in the last few months? How is it now she's posing on a stage as a DPM treasurer? So there's no freshness to DPM. So to say that all the new voters would be inclined to head that way, that's no freshness.
Yes, and I think you and Roland are agreeing there on one point.
No, but just to respond to that quickly, I can't defend anybody. I can't defend Glenys. I can't defend NMP. I can't defend DPM. I can't defend some of what Jenny is bringing forward. The thing about it is that this is the political space that we have, and if we use some of the metrics that we use to eliminate and say, well, this person shouldn't be there, and cast a particular complexion and tone, and this person, because they were associated with this, they shouldn't be. If we use some of these metrics, then maybe the metrics we use to define imperfection, then maybe no one should be participated, from Keith Mitchell to Deacon Mitchell, to Peter David, to anybody. If we use these metrics to decide where people should be and where people should be positioned. So my thing is that I'm not sure that's the best thing to do. I mean, if whoever wants to be where they could be, if Delma wants to go to NDC, that's her choice.
I'm not saying no. I said, it bled my heart because I am privy to a lot of stuff. I did not say she shouldn't be there. Trust me.
Right.
Because that is her democratic right, of course.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So, but I'm just saying that is all of that is in the pot. All of those things is in the pot.
But
and it's the public to decide.
But Raul, what you're saying there is not adding up, because that's what people do when they choose who to represent them anyway.
Right.
They look at who is there, and that's how they make their choice.
Right.
So persons putting themselves up there have to know that, have to accept that, and what comes with it. That's how we choose.
Yeah. And I think again. Yes, absolutely. And of course, we're going to now segue. But before we do, I just also want to acknowledge that we, in the last election, I believe the voter turnout was somewhere in the region of the mid-40s, right? So the question is always
60,000
what happened?
60,000.
60,000. I'm talking about percentage-wise now.
Percentage, yeah.
Percentage-wise, what was the? I believe it was in the high 40s in the region there.
Yeah.
But you know what? Always, and this is a question that I always have, right? A big picture here. How do we get to that 70-80% voter turnout, right? And what happens to those voters who do not vote? Is it because, you know, they just are disaffected by the two parties? Is it because, you know, they're not really educated on the issues or passionate enough to go out and cast their ballots, right? So, and so that is something that I always wonder in the context of Grenada's, well, 2 now 3-party attempted 3-party system. You know, yeah, you know, so I think that is something we have to explore. But Ms. Simon, segueing to the New National Party, I remember when you started Simon Says, you articulated the view that you were going to be an independent voice to critique the government, yes, and which you've done.
And I'm still that person.
Well, hold on. If I may finish the question,
Okay.
if I may, yes, absolutely. So you say you're still that person, but and so, but we did see you at the famous candidate launch in Delma Thomas's constituency, and to which you were received with great fanfare by the base of the New National Party. One can argue that your audience probably includes a lot of the base of the New National Party. So which is it? Are you still going to be an independent voice, or are you now throwing your weight behind the leadership of MLNP and the New National Party?
I am still an independent voice, one. I am a Grenadian and I have to vote, right? So I can choose to assemble wherever I want. But I am still independent. I would call out wrongs wherever I see it and whenever I see it. I am not a card-bearing member of any political party on this island. I'm not a card-bearing member.
Including the New National Party, okay.
Including the New National Party. I am not a card-bearing member, and I don't plan on being a card-bearing member for any party for the rest of my life on this little rock. I don't plan on no card-bearing member.
So
who I want, I would support who I want, and I was invited to, and I went to 2, and you probably missed the St. Mark one, but I did. I went to Maya's thing. I was invited, and I went. I had a grand time. And
well, I saw that behind the footage.
And the truth is,
yes,
the love is in the house. I could tell you that. Trust me.
Well, so the follow-up question to that, Ms. Simon, is should the New National Party win the next election, which I suppose you're confident of, should they win the next election, would you have the same cadence? Would you be able to critique them in the same way that you're now critiquing the National Democratic Congress?
Yes, I would. Yes, I would. And I do it so even now. I call them out on my program, asking them to be more to come out and speak out more as a party. I ask them to speak up against especially the corruption in the country. And yes, I will. Yes, okay. I will.
Well, I trust, because mark the date. It's now Sunday 29th March at 11:49 a.m. Jenny Simon said that she will be able to critique the New National Party if they win the election with the same gusto. Save the tape, because as you said, Ms. Simon, the tape does not lie.
It does not lie.
Right? Okay. Because I do remember a time, just going down memory lane a bit, when folks in the New National Party, they got very exercised when you articulated the view of was it a fig skin in the hospital? Remember that? Yes. On We FM, remember that?
It wasn't in the hospital. It was people using fig skin.
But the new National Party went after you guns blazing, figuratively speaking.
No, they
didn't. But now they love you.
And the NDC used to say to me after a program, "You didn't give them enough. Give them. They tell me I ain't give NMP enough. Give them." The NDC. They love their sister Jenny. You hear?
Yes, yes. Quickly, yes, and then we will segue into the NNP candidate launch as the next topic. Yes,
okay, Yeah, just quick comment. It is possible to be a journalist. And when you get a chance, research that British journalist, I think it was John Pilger. It is possible to be a journalist and a media worker and practicing what you call advocacy journalism.
Yes.
In Grenada or wherever, you could look like if you're on a particular side. But it's called advocacy journalism. What it is that you do, you look at the issues. For example, in Jenny's case, and I'm not speaking for Jenny, I'm part of the sector, so I can speak for this issue.
Well, you can speak for your cousin. I'm sure she wouldn't mind.
In Jenny's case, Jenny is actually practicing good journalism. What she has done, she has picked some issues for example, the investigation against Andy and the Cliff Road project. That's an advocacy journalism issue. She has sources that tells her that something is wrong with it, and she brings that to the forefront. The lotto is another issue. It does not necessarily automatically translate that because for example, the hospital, this is another issue. Because you express a particular view, we support the idea of a hospital, and because you say, well, but yes, the hospital, but we need proper healthcare now, certain things now. The opponents will say, okay, but you're against it. Not necessarily. You could be, you could advocate for particular issues of national interest. It doesn't necessarily mean you're against it, or it doesn't necessarily mean you're for the opposing party. So, I mean, Jenny could subscribe to whoever party she wants. I don't care.
And that is a constitutional right.
She has a record of advocating on a number of issues, and this is what works for Grenada in a situation where our media structure is kind of weak in a sense, and nobody asking a lot of tough, challenging questions. So,
well, we ask tough, challenging questions here on the Bub Report.
I wasn't talking about you actually.
I'm just saying. but let us segue. Of course, we've seen, as I articulated in the intro, in the context of the new national party now. So we discussed DPM, third party. Now we're getting into the conversation around the new national party. They have had a series of very high-profile candidate launch, very digitally savvy. I suspect my former producer Kitaka. I give him that. He's very talented. He's very talented in that respect. But I suspect he had something to do with that. But that aside, the new national party, they waited. What I thought was very fascinating is that the very last candidate launch was saved for the constituency where Delma Thomas crossed the floor. And I thought that was a political masterstroke of sorts. And whoever decided to come up with that strategy, I thought that was brilliant. What say you, Roland? And then of course, that would serve as the segue into the other caretaker candidates that we've seen emerge from those launches. Yes.
Well, that last launch there with in St. Andrews Northwest.
Correct.
That is with this emerging elections, there are some interesting flashpoints to look at. That's a key flashpoint to look at. Key flashpoint. Why do I say this? Let me explain. Now, Delma, and I'm not throwing anything at anyone here. Delma went across the NDC from NNP. And what that launch did is to rally the base and send a message. NNP is going for blood, and I don't mean it in any negative way. I'm not speaking negative. NNP is going for revenge against Delma because they feel as though she betrayed them. She left them and she went on to NDC, and now she's running on an NDC ticket. So they're going hard for that constituency. You heard it. You heard how the speaker spoke, and they have selected Sister Lisa, who seems to be very popular, and they're rallying around her, and they're going hard for Delma. Delma, the question is, would she hold out? Would she do a Arlene Walker, where you know Arlene who won on TNP ticket, NNP ticket, NDC ticket, or whatever, on several tickets? Would she be able to do that? Does she have enough? So that's a crucial flashpoint to watch out there. Another area that was pretty clear was the transition from Keith Mitchell in the Northwest to Adrian. I think we're pretty predictable there in terms of what potential.
Another cousin of yours, right? Another cousin of yours.
Yeah, that's another cousin of the whole family. Adrian,
all in the family.
Adrian Joseph in the Northwest. That was a nice, smooth transition there. Adrian is from the belly of the community. I'm not in this thing about belly of the party. That's nonsense for me. He's in the belly of the community. He grew up. You saw how the people, they saw him as a little boy, and he's passionate. What he's doing now, he's been doing it since he's small. So I expect him to do some great things there and get good support there. The Tongue of St. George. I don't know the young man who is there. That's for NNP, but I think you have to look at that Tongue of St. George to see how is Peter going to hold on to that seat, or is Claudette is all over him 24/7? Is she going to edge him out? That's that because you see, Peter has won on several tickets. He has won on an NNP ticket. He has won on an NDC ticket. Now he's moving on his movement ticket. The whole voter dynamics three-way thing, how it's going to play out there. So with new candidates coming on stream, I think ground mobilization is crucial, irrespective of the newness of the candidate, as opposed to St. Mark's. Let me just switch over to St. Mark's, where we know St. Mark's is in the NNP stronghold. And
as is St. George Northwest.
As in St. George Northwest, St. Mark's there. So that girl, Dr. Charles, I think her name is
Mayana Charles, correct.
Yeah, I think she looks like she may hold out there for NNP. So basically, but a lot is gonna happen in terms of what plays out on the ground. The ground campaign will be, because I honestly believe that there's a lot of fertility in the system in terms of where things can shift at this point in time. That's why I use the word transition. There's a lot will play out based on your ground game, your political ground game in the constituency. That's going to determine the outcome of how people vote to a large extent.
But Roland, not wanting to cut your train of thought, of course, the National Democratic Congress under the leadership of Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell, the moniker of his campaign was newness, fresh faces. Right. That was always the moniker of the NDC's campaign. Now, one can argue that the same is true for the new National Party. As I said before, if you look at, and there is a theory of the case in political science, that voters like novelty. So wouldn't the NNP have an advantage here with respect of their novelty as well?
Well, I'm not sure how novelty is going to play out in this dispensation, because remember, coming from before 2022, NDC was crying out for leadership, right? And then along came Deacon Mitchell, sees an opportunity, and within 6 months he rose up, and then people rallied around him. Yes. Right? In the case of NNP, I personally think that Keith made a lot of tactical mistake. I think what happened in last election, NNP basically lost the election as opposed to NDC winning the election. I think the leadership, Keith made a lot of tactical mistakes in terms of himself, his decisions, his choices that he made. I credit him. I credit his genius as a politician, but I think he made some flaws, and I think that cost him dearly, especially the flaw where he decided, okay, I'm going to one for the road. I'm going today. I'm not going to in that indecision, communicating that indecision. I think that created that whole mess with the Peter scenario and so on. I think he has to take a large amount of responsibility for that. No man would have moved if he didn't give that mixed signal, quite frankly. So that's how I look at it.
Yes, absolutely. Ms. Simon, the NNP candidates, of course, that has been generating a lot of buzz. Of course, in the last election, sympathizers of the National Democratic Congress, they made the point, see our social media metrics, it's higher than the NNP. But one can argue now that the NNP's social media metrics is higher than the NDC's in terms of social media engagement. I did not say it. Dr. Justin Pay said it. Okay.
Among others.
Right? But let us talk about those new candidates and the sentiment that you're getting from the ground with respect to those new caretakers. What say you?
Okay, now, first let me make it clear. I am not on the inside of the NNP.
Yes.
So I'm not aware of why they left the person for the last and why all these things. I'm not aware of those things. Now, personally, I am quite impressed with the candidates that they have launched. And we cannot leave out Robert White. Robert White is a star in this whole thing. And we definitely cannot. And Robert White can bring both West and east. And that's what happened in St. Patrick's a lot of the times anyway with these two constituencies. Depending on the stronger candidate in whichever one, that person, whichever party it is, carries both. And that is, in my opinion, that is what Robert White can do. And so he's one of the new ones. We can't leave out, we have to speak about Young Diali, who seems to have gotten his grip now and is on the ground.
In St. George South.
In South, and I'm in the South. That's where I vote. So I know I've been speaking to people, I've been hearing people's views and comments, and he is going to make a difference in that constituency as well. We can't leave him out. He's quiet. He seems laid back in some instances, but he is making a mark in the South, and he's brilliant, a brilliant young man that can do a lot for the politics of Grenada in time to come. Well, my girl Nolene in St. David's, she's a boss. Besides being my friend, my good friend, she is a boss. And the politics just came naturally for her. And it has to be that's the type of person she is, you know, and it came naturally. And with a stalwart like her mother on the ground with her, you're going up against two monkeys and not one on your back. That's two monkeys on back. And with the Prime Minister, now the member for St. David's for NDC. In the last election, it's also surrounded Deacon Mitchell. He didn't campaign, didn't have to even go down on the ground and campaign as he should. And it was okay because as NDC was thirsty, they were hungry and they needed that. Most of the candidates did not campaign because they rode on Deacon Mitchell's back. It's not going to happen like that this time. You got 4 years, and it could be more, to go to your people, say who you are after the last election, if you didn't get a chance to go, because everything happened quickly as well. But this one-man show that NDC think they can come back with in this election, they better start thinking twice. It's not going to happen. Persons has experienced them and know what they can and cannot do, or know what they did and didn't do. And so you have to go down on the ground and speak to the people and ask them for your vote and talk to them face to face and let them tell you what their issues are with you and why they don't think they can vote for you again. But to sit down and think you can ride on Deacon Mitchell's back, who himself needs help at this point. He is not a clear winner in St. David's as we speak. So there's a problem, right? There is the NDC's problem right there.
Right. So what I hear you saying here in the context of the new national party, it's not only in the past, you know, it has always been Dr. Keith Mitchell here as this larger than life leader who many might argue carried the party with him in the same way Deacon Mitchell carried the NDC with him. So it's not going to be the same. You're saying that in the context of this election, candidate quality would matter.
Of course.
And the NNP is making that case. Let's hear, yes, Ron, let's hear what your thought process on that. Candidate quality here, or is it still that people are going to be voting for the leaders? In the case, Emmeline Pear, Peter David, Deacon Mitchell.
Some it's a combination. It's a combination, really. But to Jenny's first point, yes, candidate quality will matter, and leadership. I'm not too sure if leadership will be a major factor. The lead. I was making a point earlier that in the case of Deacon, when he came in and people voted for other candidates on the basis of Deacon, and because Deacon has actually held up NDC, I think that will be tested. That will be tested this elections, quite frankly, and we'll see how that plays out. I think some of the novelty has worn out, and I think it's about how people present themselves. I mean, reference was made to the Diali guy and other people. how you present yourself to the public, how you present yourself, how you make your case, your ground game, how you canvass the list, how you go around the constituency and you present yourself. This is why I keep making the point that it's not looking the same as before. Where this election coming up and Keith Mitchell is leading NNP and they may have a landslide or they may win significantly or they may win solid. I think it's very. No poll has been done, but we all making our preliminary assessment based on how we feel, what we see in the community feedback, and I'm not too sure if anybody has a clear. I mean, some party may win a majority of the seats, but they may not necessarily win a clear mandate.
Well, you keep saying that. I think that only happened once in Grenadian history. And I'm subject to correction, but I don't even think the alliance in that was it the 76 elections with the alliance and the GULP and the alliance, which was the NJM and the GNP. I don't think it was a 7-7 type of situation. The only time that happened was in 1990. Right. I think the GULP won too. Of course, Uncle Gary was still around, and people were still relying on his goodwill. And I think the GLP won 2, the NDC won 6.
Right. But what we
and
looking
the NNP won 2 or something like that at the time. Yes.
Right. But what we're looking at is what we have now, and what we're looking at is the potential of candidates to win the seat. For example, we think it's a foregone conclusion that if you ask me now, or you ask several people, they'll probably say, okay, Deacon seat is sure, or Ron's seat is sure, or Andy's seat is sure. Jenny's making the point just now, and I heard Dr. Pear made the point too, that Deacon's seat may not be sure. That girl, Nolene, I don't know her personally, but she seemed to be running a serious
young woman, not girl, young woman. Language, language, please.
Correction. She seemed to be running a very good campaign in St. David's against thing. You can't take that away from her. And then I heard that she's connected. Her family's on the ground with her, as Jenny was saying. So you have to look at all of those things.
They have some institutional knowledge with the NNP as a family,
right? Yeah, and then, of course, I missed the point on the Robert. I didn't mention the Robert White.
Robert White, yes.
Robert is likable. Everybody knows he has national appeal and so on, so he could cause some problems in St.
Patrick, correct.
Right. So with all those things coming together now, right? It's what you call we're heading into the mother of all the mother of all elections, quite frankly, and so things that we can't. I mean, the best we can do is speculate on the best that we know. But you see, the final outcome might be surprising. I made a point earlier, and I stress it here now, that the opposition has been strengthening, has been organizing, right? Has been putting themselves together, and the more time they have, the more they will organize. It works for them as opposed to working for the incumbent. This is what is happening now. My feeling earlier was that the Prime Minister was going to call it in June. That was my speculation, and I'm going with speculating on the fact that they quote unquote seem to be strong in the diaspora. I have a lot of diaspora people who came back and register, and in June you have the diaspora conference. So the feeling is that would he call it in June because that's gonna increase his vote potential and that sort of thing. So what we can speculate on is what we have that's available, but in terms of the ultimate final outcome of what happens on the ground, this will be interesting.
Mm-hmm. Now, let us segue into the National Democratic Congress and what's happening with them politically. Of course, one of their biggest surrogates, he's no friend of the show, no friend of mine. He famously insulted me and disrespected me, so I'm not going to give him any oxygen here on the program. Suffice it to say, however, he did on his program. Again, I don't watch his program, but of course somebody sent me the link and said, oh, well, you really need to see this. And I'm like, well, why do I know I don't. I really don't. But essentially, this gentleman, he chastised his party. I'm not too sure if any of you saw that. He gave them a severe tongue lashing. And I was quite frankly shocked and taken aback. So let us begin there with his comments, and perhaps obviously he would be on the ground with those candidates and folks in his party. Jenny, what do you make of the comments that he made at the time in the way that he chastised the NDC publicly and so caustically? And what does that say about the state of the party?
Let me say that is the character. That's his character. He's been like that as long as I've known him through NDC. Even when I was there, he would chastise them. He'd been calling several times to tell them, well, don't do it on air. Come in and talk. And when he has to do it, he will do it. And so that's who he is. Okay. And another thing I would say, he is also a person on the ground, and he will know that things ain't bright, and that he is seeing the writing on the wall. So that outburst is desperation. He can't help it, and because he's seeing what he was deemed as. It was because of him, forgetting the Deacon Mitchell part. Remember, that's who NDC, he was the cause of their win. Remember that he got that accolade.
The youth for change and all of that type of thing.
See what you built, what you fought for to get to this point, and to see it disintegrating in your eyes, before your very eyes, and knowing what that the results can be. It was an outburst, and I've seen it before, I've heard it before as well. So it's not new. It's not new with him. He would do that.
Okay, but in the context of what was said, what do you think might be happening there? Are you hearing that perhaps that there might be a segment of the NDC base, which historically, and this is the data, folks, historically has not been a big base. That's just the data. That's just reality. Is it that members of the base are disaffected by the manner in which they were treated, and so perhaps he's seeing that they might just decide to sit the election out, which again might work against them if they want to win a second term?
The thing is, I don't even think is what we call disgruntled NDC. They are some, and there are always those. But I believe what I'm hearing and picking up from a lot of NDC people, the word disappointment. They are disappointment with the administration and how they manage things, how they govern, and the corrupt title is affecting a lot of people as well, because that's one of the things NDC always campaigned against. For years, they've been campaigning against corruption.
Good governance, transparency, accountability.
Right? And corruption with the former administration. And to come in, and not everybody have wool over their eyes and or their heads in the sand. Some of them have come up for air, and they can see and they can reason and they know. And so that phrase, I am so disappointed, is like a road march. When you speak to genuine, normal thinking NDCites, right? Non-hypocritical NDCites. You hear that phrase, I am so very disappointed. And they have reasons to be, loads of reasons to be disappointed. So it's more that than I would even say disgruntled. There may be the ones who, of course, are disgruntled, but it's more disappointment in the minds of the NDC supporters. And as you see, a lot of NDC people, and I wouldn't even say NDC, electorate, they don't vote. And this is not Grenada alone, it's worse. If you check Barbados, their data.
Yeah, their voter turnout was just abysmal.
Yes, yeah. And so I think the community, the Caribbean community, I think they get just tired of this system.
There's a lot of apathy.
System, and they just sit down home. Then there are those who say, look at a crowd that say, ray, 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 and say, we win already. And they refuse to go and vote. And of course, then they're the disgruntled one and the unhappy ones, because they would be NDC supporters who would never vote for NNP or any other party. They wouldn't vote. They just wouldn't vote. But they say move from NDC to vote, the real hardcore base, right? That you wouldn't see that happening. And it would be vice versa, right? Some people would rather sit it out.
Raul, you want to add to anything Ms. Simon says here with respect to, again, the National Democratic Congress? Has apathy set in on their side? And is that a reflection of national apathy as well? What say you?
Well, if you look at the 26,000 people who eligible to vote but are not casting their vote, you have to draw the conclusion that they are not voting because one of the reasons could be they're just not interested in voting. They don't see it. They don't see any chemistry between themselves and voting. So they how do we get people to come out and participate in the process, right? So that's one thing. The other issue is based on what's happening now, and it has to do with NDC and its prospects. Now, if you listen to a lot of people in the diaspora, you will swear that NDC is going to win by a landslide. If you listen to some people on the ground, you will say there's
the constituency of the comment section. Shall we call them that?
You'll say there's much more going on.
Are they registered? We don't know, but go ahead.
Yeah,
yes,
I spent time talking to quite a lot of people.
It's just a joke, yes.
And apparently, what's happening now is a different style, is a different policy, I think, though. Some people compare this NDC to the GNP NDC, the upper class, that sort of thing. The thing is now, we say politics is multiplication. When you exclude people, the majority of people in Grenada, I don't know, 80-85% is not, and I'm not saying it negatively, is poor people. And this is why people elect politicians, public officials. You have to help people, education, housing, healthcare, whatever. That's your purpose. If people not eating enough food, they will be turned off. What happened is that under a Mitchell administration, you'll have a debushing, and then people didn't understand the value of the debushing. But when every 2 weeks people get paid, the shop circulate, projects come on stream, money circulate, man have money in the pocket, they could buy a beer, they could get a girl money, that kind of a thing. So there's a feeling that on the ground economic scenario has slowed up, right? And so people talking, that is a talking point. That is a talking point. And then against the perception that, hold on, who's really eating the food? Is it the guy who signing off for the cement? Is it the couple of people who get a contract for the 50th anniversary projects, independence thing? Is it a few people? Is it the guy in law? And so on. So they're looking at all of this, right? And they will feel that, okay, I'm disappointed. I'm not. So this is what is happening. So I feel personally that a lot of that is playing out on the ground in terms of someone who used to eat a food or a group of people who used to eat a food and they no longer eating a food. They will feel people disappointed for different reasons. They don't have access to whatever resources, so they feel disappointed. And this is because of the change in policy, right? Under a previous administration, I get my Chinese housing, I pay me a little bit for it, I don't have to pay the land. Under this administration now, the policy changed. I have my Chinese housing, now you're telling me I have to pay for the land and go and get a loan. All these things play into how people feel, right? I think when people put themselves up for public office is because the social justice is what's supposed to be on your mind. Yes, I understand, it's not everybody come from a struggle. Chester Humphrey lie down in front of a truck. Ambrose Phillip, you throw meat at Ambrose Phillip. Leslie Pay, lock up Leslie Pay. A lot of our leaders have struggled, Maurice Bishop, through the social justice, Eric Matthew Gary, for social justice, to bring social justice to people. And I understand that our current prime minister hasn't done this, and not everybody will. But to me, when you put yourself up for public office, especially in a poor country like Grenada, you have to understand that it's just the 10% mostly everybody needs some kind of support. So your policy have to reflect that. And I think we are caught in a situation where that is a critical issue in terms of the policy, the complexion of the policy. Is the policy covering most of the poor people, helping people? Is the policy, yes, there's a big hospital and so on, and we support it and we hope for it comes out well. But on the ground policy that helps people, the welfare policy, the education policy, and all of that.
Well, Raul, I would just push back here. I mean, the counter argument here is going to be you referencing that, the current prime minister, obviously he did not have the same, so in your phrasing of it, social justice ethos. Of course, one would argue that the last campaign, he articulated some of those social justice issues. Now, to the extent that he's been able to deliver on all of them, the jury's still out on that. In the context of, for example, the pension issue, in the context of the docked salary issue, those are also bread and butter issues for working class Grenadian people. Regularization of workers, things like that.
Right. So I did make the point coming in that not all, because what I'm referencing is that your record of social justice, I'm saying people on or a lot of our leaders have had a record of social justice, from Morris Bishop to Gary, all of them. And I'm saying I did say that I concede that some here now and even in the future may not have, right? So the fact that our Prime Minister now did not have that record of championing social justice and social cause, right? I understand, but I'm saying leaders should, even in going forward, that should be your key philosophy, social justice. So even if you didn't come from a history of social justice and helping people, the trade union movement and so on, in moving forward now, that should
he helped people before getting involved in politics.
That should be your guidance. That should be your guiding philosophy in terms of your policy direction, and so on in terms of support. And I'm saying, I'm not taking away what anyone have done, but I'm saying somewhere within there, the shift in policy and so on, some people get left out. And when people get left out, it means that they're removed. And so they're subtracted from the equation. And that affects political outcome.
And can contribute to apathy as well there, right?
Yes.
But of course the NDC, the NNP is, I'm not sure if Ms. Simon, if you wanted to add anything to what
I would like to, because
yes, please.
Just to expand a little bit on where we're always going, especially when it comes to housing. You see, he did articulate in the campaign a lot of these social justice things. Correct. He did. And he stood on a platform in St. David's and he said, give the people the houses, the houses in Corinth, right? In Corinth, give the people the houses. They have them locked up. Give the people the houses. And the houses were meant for low-income earners or no-income earners, right? Right now, we have no such housing on the island of Grenada, Carriacou, Petit Martinique. They cannot afford it, right? So when the time came to give the people the houses, they remained locked up for almost another 2 years. And eventually, when they put out their plan, their strategy, the low-income people couldn't afford it and still can't afford it. So we have that problem. And you spoke about the pension. What we got was retroactive, right? That was retroactive pension. We must not forget that. And the duck salary, that was not mentioned in the campaign. That was a show-off as they came into office. But the persons who are affected by those two, and that's the only two they could talk about up to today, and they were public servants. Now, Grenada make up of a lot more people than public servants. A lot of ordinary poor people outside there are not public servants and have not benefited from those two. What's left for them? The same debushing and thing that they used to do, they don't get it anymore. So what happened to that demographic of persons? And people do not forget how you make them feel. They do not forget. When you can buy mackerel on the weekend, that is $20-something a pound. What is the help for these people? And we also must not forget, that Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell, as a corporate lawyer, went up against workers on this island almost all the time. He went up against workers, not public servants, but workers on the outside.
Private sector, workers in the private sector, yes.
So private sector don't exist anymore in this country. There are a lot of private sector workers, right? And they're not affected by this, by the pension and the doc salary, which was illegal anyway. The doc salary given the public workers, the teachers, the doc salary, it's illegal. It was illegal.
Well, very, and of course, I'm getting some comments in the comment section that folks are saying that this panel was not balanced. As I said at the start of this segment, we did invite, through the Public Relations Officer of the National Democratic Congress, the Honorable Ron Redhead, a representative sympathetic to the National Democratic Congress to appear on the program. I wanted to be clear that the invitation is always open to the National Democratic Congress to have a representative here. We did reach out to Mr. Larry Barry, who was always, and I can timestamp the date so nobody could say, I put my integrity on the line here. I don't make stories up, okay? We did reach out to Mr. Larry Barry, unless his number changed, on several occasions, to appear on a panel such as this, as he did in the past. So this is not for a lack of trying. I want to be very clear that we always attempt to strike a balance here. So let us be very clear about that. I wanted to put that out there. But the final issue here that I wanted to raise, and this, again, it goes back to what you said, Ms. Simon, there about your former leader, I suspect your former NDC leader, that is, the only party, one of the only parties that you were formally registered in the National Democratic Congress. For those who don't remember, for those who are cussing you out now, you were the president of the women's arm of the NDC.
And when I left, I was the deputy chairman of the party.
The deputy chairman of the party and all of that.
Of the management committee of the party.
Yeah, right, absolutely, right? So at that time, the ethos of the National Democratic Congress was transparency, accountability, and good governance. Yeah. There was actually a song, I remember, it was called Good Governance. It was a calypso. Maybe Leke sang that. I don't know. I think he also sang a song on you there last year, Ms. Simon. Somebody Tell Jenny or something like that. But anyways, the point I'm raising is, in the context of the lotto issue here, and of course, everyone saw the interview that I did with Jonathan Lecret, who articulated one of the issues of contention that he had with the Prime Minister was over the management of the board of at the National Lotteries Authority. Of course, there is evidence that comes from the Fiscal Responsibility Oversight Committee. In an interview that I did with its chairperson, Laurel Bain, last year, November 2025, in the lead up to the budget, with respect to the fact that statutory boards in Grenada, and this is a systemic governance issue, have not been submitting audited financial reports. They have not been submitting. So I just wonder here. But Mr. Lecret indicated at the time that that was one of the reasons perhaps that he might have been dismissed. Only to find out that the gentleman at the center of all of the allegations lobbed at the Grenada National Lottery Authority, through confirmation with the press secretary, indicated that he resigned from the National Lottery Authority. There was no public announcement on this. Absolutely no public announcement, as far as I'm aware. I was able to get confirmation from her that he did. But let us talk about this whole issue of good governance and because, you know, the National Democratic Congress has always been a party that championed ideas and ethos around good governance. Is that out of the window now, Ron?
Well, what I think is that the position of political parties, especially in small Caribbean islands, is as a result of this leadership style of the political leader, right? The political leader, because we hold them in this high, almost worshiping them like God, and the political system allows us to do this. They define the philosophy of the party. In the case with good governance, I think that was more a Tillman Thomas thing as opposed to a National Democratic Congress thing that will move on as the leadership change. The leadership of the National Democratic Congress has changed. And the emphasis on transparency and accountability has moved out. That supports the thesis that I'm making, that in my view, the issue of good governance, transparency, and accountability, that was Tillman Thomas' catchphrase. That was his philosophy. That was what he emblazoned the NDC with, because leadership in political parties define the culture of the party, particularly in the Caribbean society, i.e. Grenada as well. And that is what happened. Now, along came Deacon Mitchell as prime minister, took over, political leader, took over, and basically his view is what is defining the party. And so, as we see now in some situation where there's issues of allegations of corruption and that sort of thing, he treats it a certain way. The issue of press conferences and reporting to the public, he treats it a certain way. The issue of traveling overseas and then coming back and report to your nation, he treats it a certain way. It's based on his philosophy, whether you say need to know or not. So basically, his philosophy is what is defining his political party, and that's an issue that we have in small island politics, where leaders call the shot in a major way, as opposed to the party agreeing through its rank and file and through its whatever means that, okay, this is our philosophy, this is what we are guided by, irrespective of which leader comes in, the philosophy of the party remains. So if it's transparency and accountability, that remains throughout. And so you find now in this scenario where there's issues with Lotto and the government doesn't come forward and speak to the particular issue, there's allegations, read a Cliff Road, and that's not particularly addressed in a way to the public. A lot of that is happening. So in my view, this is what I think needed to happen. We need to get to a place where political parties have their philosophy and the guiding position on issues, and it needs to transcend leadership. So whenever the leadership changes, the party holds on to its position. And if it needs to amend its position, it's amended through its whatever constitution mechanism, whatever, and so on. But it's dangerous at this point in time. And even in the case of NNP, NNP is basically was difficultly defined by Dr. Mitchell's view and his philosophy and how he sees things. That's how it is. I think that's a dangerous precedent, whether it happened in an NNP situation or whether it's happening in an NDC situation. Is dangerous for leadership view and leadership point of view to define
you say that, Roland, but I think that has been the reality in the Caribbean, though. I mean, if you look at, for example, in the context of Trinidad right now with Dr. Keith Rowley, former Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, of course, when he left, things fell apart with the People's National Movement, and he was able to put his thumb on the scale, and that failed spectacularly. I mean, we see it over in St. Vincent and the Grenadines with Dr. Ralph Gonzalez. Same thing with Kenny Anthony in St. Lucia, and so on, and they replete with examples.
Right. So basically, you're supporting the point. Just to quickly wrap up here, this is what I'm saying. I'm saying it's dangerous. It's not a healthy place to be. So I'm not just Grenada, and you point to the other Caribbean islands. I don't believe it's a healthy place to be. It's not a part of democracy that's working well for us.
No. Yes. Go ahead, Ms. Simon.
I first of all, what I gather from Roland with NDC, and I'm going to come there in a minute, is that each leader come in with their philosophy. If it happens, it's in head, but on paper, in NDC's achievement booklet, in their manifesto, any literature you see for NDC, and I have some right on my desk here, their core value is printed. So it's not a Tillman Thomas thing. It's printed. Even when Nazim Book was the leader of the party, it's printed. Their core values, honesty, the same set, accountability, integrity, good governance. Their vision and their mission remains the same on paper, right? So any change, it means that it's in the minds of the new leader and his nation builders group. Because what I'm coming to say is that every NDC person, except if somebody had died, that when I was in NDC, that preached from that Bible, that I walked the streets of St. George's with, all 75, 50, maybe 100 of us, time and time again, that went to picket the electoral office. They are all there, embedded in the NDC still. Some are candidates, some are members of the executive, some are they're chairmen of boards, they're advisors, they have all positions. And they are there where they can make a difference. The Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs, who has the pen, she's been there. She's been condemning the NNP in most of the things that they've gone in there. They're doing and doing it worse. They make Keith Mitchell look like an angel, right? So they are there. Why aren't they? Well, I mean, so it comes back to Deacon Mitchell when he said that he would not be hoodwinked like Tillman Thomas was. The values that Tillman Thomas had. And I wonder sometimes, where is he? And if I was him, I would not sit in the front of these events. But you can see he's not jolly when he's there. Because all what he stood for and all that he had us standing up for has gone down the drain. And any normal NDC person who's been there when I was there, if they're not seeing it, they're blinded by what I don't know, but they are blinded because it's factual. It's factual. They all are there. Nazim Burke. We could talk about Aaron Moses, Vincent Roberts, Persuader Thomas, Joseph Andel. All these people been there. Claudette Joseph. I mean, you just name them. They've been in there. Ron Redhead, Kirin, the boy Tevin, the young man Tevin, all of them been there.
The gentleman, girl or boy, let's stay away from that.
Yes,
let's stay away from
all of them
names, please.
Been there.
Yeah.
Right? I wonder what happened. No, just one more thing. I wanted to talk about the group that came into NDC. If you want to say they're separated from NDC and they're not really NDC, then I cannot agree to that. And they do not carry the core values of the NDC. And to speak about what happened in the lottery authority, it was clear. The Prime Minister speak of people not being perfect, who throwing stone. And, I mean, you just listen to those. It tells you that he's not interested in integrity and good governance. And good governance. You cannot have the former administration. They had 2 inquiries against the Prime Minister, Dr. Mitchell. And we can have none against a minister who it is clear. The evidence are there. There are facts to show that he took a bribe. And you telling me that you're not going to investigate it and we're going down the road like that. And there are others, the same lotto thing that have been swept under the carpet. Workers of the lottery authority had begged. They have begged for the Prime Minister and the administration to investigate lotto. Likewise, the gravel and concrete workers are doing now. They are begging for persons to come in and investigate what's going on in gravel and concrete. And it's being ignored.
And then Gravel and Concrete issued a statement saying that they did an investigation. I'm saying to myself, you cannot investigate yourself. You have a fiduciary responsibility. Again, I have no skin in the political game, so don't come for me, please. I don't care for. My colors are the rainbow, but Sorry. But the point is, how could you put out a statement saying that you did an investigation, a press release, and no media house in Grenada followed up on that? To say, well, what does that mean?
The release was signed
Did
by
you,
the
did you,
financial officer.
Right. So has Gravel and Concrete submitted the audited financial statements to the Fiscal Responsibility Oversight Committee?
No, they haven't.
That was not articulated in the state, but I just thought I needed to say that. But I have on the screen here, folks, the philosophy, the governing philosophy of the ruling National Democratic Congress. It cites Tillman Thomas, former prime minister and former leader, with an imagery of dear sister Joan Purcell. We believe in the principles of good governance, the power of accountability and transparency, and the strength of self-reliance in building a resilient and empowered society. And then it goes on to say, our unwavering commitment to good governance. At the core of the NDC is our unwavering commitment to good governance, the foundation of effective and responsible leadership. Good governance ensures the efficient and management of public resources in response to the needs of society. It calls for thoughtful decision-making, wise judgment, and accountable leadership in shaping and implementing policies that serve people. Good governance is accountable, meaning that government must report, explain, and take responsibility for its decisions. I have to give credit to Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell. Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell, has made himself available to media in Grenada, especially independent media like myself, in a way that former Prime Minister Dr. Mitchell did not. Just putting that out there, just saying. but so the point is, again, I think that the bigger picture here on the question of good governance is that just right now just words on paper, right? Or is that something that as a society, and it doesn't matter who is there, whether it's NNP, and I called out the New National Party government when they were there. I did as well, so much so that I received multiple attacks. And the people who cheerleaded me when I was doing the work of journalism then, and some of them would be today cussing me out. But that's just the nature of politics. But but ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for appearing on the Bub Report this week. And so as we go to closing comments, I suppose in the US they do this thing, the prediction, polymarket games and things like that. Raw, I will begin with you here. Is there going to be an election in 2026? What say you as you go to closing comments?
If Deacon Mitchell were to ask me for advice, I will say to him, go with
Ring
it
the bell.
by June. Ring the bell. You saw Keith Mitchell last election ringing the bell. Ring the bell by June, because the opposition is mobilizing and organizing and getting stronger and doing the campaigning now. And
every week they are relentless. They are everywhere. They are ubiquitous on social media.
And in a social media climate now, which didn't exist before, we have social media climate now. You can put things out there, and a lot of people will see it and making themselves visible, present. They're going wherever they are, and so on. So I would think you would call it as early as possible. The longer you delay it, the more things get complicated. The more people like Jenny may pull out some skeletons for things for the skull, and things will work. Things will potentially work against you, right? And it will take more than the idea of a new state-of-the-art hospital to get you back in there. There's lots more happening there in terms of the dynamics that's going to work against you. So if I were to advise him, I would say call it by June.
June. Yes, and Ms. Simon, election this year, do you predict? And if you were going to be advising your old party, what advice would you give them? Or does it matter when they call it? It wouldn't even matter.
I am not going to predict. I ain't even going to give advice. They call it when they call it when they want. It's been a thing, you know that. The prime minister have it in the front pocket, in the back pocket, in the blazer, whatever. Call it when they want. I think at the stage we are now, whenever it's called after now, I believe the results are going to be the same. I also am not going down the road with this myth about coalition and 5 and 7 and 7 and how much and 1 and that will be the deciding factor. I'm not going down that road. And I believe if you have a party and you're working towards winning, I don't see how you're going into election trying to be the decided factor. If you go all out to win, you, the NNP, the NDC, not sitting down and the DPM, not sitting down and wait for you have 5 and 4 and that, forget that. I am not subscribing to that myth out there at all. And what I know from being around the NNP is going all out to win. And they're not looking for no help up and they're not looking for no coalition. They are going to win the elections, and they're going out to win. I should say, not they're going to win. They're going out to win all out and not looking for nobody should in case. Because it didn't happen last election. You're not going to look for nobody should in case. DPM wasn't there. They went NMP up against NDC. Right? Yeah. You know, one thing I want to talk about, and people are getting wound up about it when it happened to them in social media and the derogatory names and all that sort of thing, right? When I do my program, I bring out the facts, I talk about what is happening, and I don't go calling people names, right? Like derogatory names. Because I like Tanti Glow and things that a nice little lovely name there.
Cinti daughter, is that something you coined as well?
Cinti daughter, Tanti Glow.
No, I did not coin Cinti daughter.
Oh, I see.
In the campaign on the Carenage, when Cinti daughter went to the Carenage to call a meeting, she introduced herself as Cinti daughter.
Okay, I see. Okay.
And that's where that came from. I did not coin.
And okay, very well.
It's still so catchy and nice.
She went there, and I guess to relate to the boys in the ghetto, because everybody knew Miss Cinti, she said, I am Cinti daughter. And I loved it. I found it a lovely name, right? So I'm just saying that you find now people trying to say, oh, this set is doing it more than this set. No. It's only when it affects one side is when it happened to them, right? I'm not in frontline politics, and I get so much blows in social media. Water off my back. According to the young man, I like a dashing leaf in the rain. Now, if you know you cannot stand the heat, I'm saying it here, get out to the kitchen, because that's how it is. And it's not a Grenada thing. Locally, regionally, and internationally. You know when you see the American elections, right?
Right.
And Ronald, my dear friend, you can't get rid of it. You can,
but Ms. Simon Roll, if I may, and I'll get you to chime in quickly. I think a lot of the social media banter is just very juvenile and childish and vacuous, because it does not really speak to the substantive issues. It's always a name calling, which we don't do here on the Bub Report. I mean, I've been subject to it. I've been called all manner of things.
Saying. It's there, and no matter what, it's getting worse. As a matter of fact. It's getting worse.
And you would acknowledge that both sides do it, because your friend, you called her your friend, the NNP's caretaker candidate for St. David. She articulated the view that she does not like that type of thing.
Right. Yes.
But her side does it too.
That's my point. And she said it there as well. When she said it that it happens in the NNP as well. She did say that. But she don't care. She's going to speak about it. It's happening. We can speak out on it. But what I'm saying is to try and make one side look as devil, and it's them alone. It's not true. It's everybody doing it.
Right.
And we can't stop it.
Just
to throw in quick 2 pence here. What I think though is that I think we have to draw the line for standard. One, we have to do 2 things here. I agree. Criticism has to come. But I think the focus should be criticizing on policy level and program level, and that's keep it at the level of issues. What has happened, and there's a sad reference I'll just make just now, is that it is degenerating to below the belt kind of a thing, below the belt and so on. And so even though we may not be able to change it, but we have to advocate against it, particularly leaders. I honestly believe the leaders have to advocate against it. You have to, and this is why you have to encourage healthy debate, healthy critique of policies, but you can't accept the fact that people getting personal and going below the belt and saying the nasty things. And the reference I want to make, my good friend Linda, they put out, we were organizing, we spoke to the blood people and so on to get blood early, 5 o'clock in the morning, we made a call, we helping and supporting. Somehow the news got out on social media. I'm not being negative to anybody, but it got out. And I suppose people were genuinely trying to help, that Linda Straker needs blood. Along come a couple of people with a toxic mentality and saying things that they shouldn't be saying. I had to go into somebody messenger and deal with them because Linda has been involved in journalism and she writes things you don't agree with. You don't sing that low to make the references that they were referencing, and they don't even want to repeat the words. That is the part that I have a problem with.
Absolutely shameful.
And that's the part we need to advocate it. The part where I write something and somebody criticizes me on the issue, on the content of what I write, I don't have a problem with that. Yeah. The part where the government put out a policy and I criticize it, that is fine. That is fine. But is the part, the negative, toxic part where people go below the belt and they say these nasty things, especially for somebody who's in hospital and they're not well, and you're making that kind of a thing. That is what we have to advocate against.
Yep, and I agree. We can advocate. I agree.
The dehumanizing rhetoric needs to stop. It absolutely needs to stop. I do not want our society to, and I know Ms. Simon is saying that's just the reality, but we were never like this. You know, we were never like this. People would make their little peacock and they move along.
Social media.
Yeah, you know, but we were, you know, people. And the other thing that grinds my gears is, you know, you can't wear green or yellow in Grenada anymore. I guess we can add orange to the thing now. I mean, you know.
Yeah, but that's what I said. You just don't. Some of these things you just throw behind your back, because I would wear green if I want. I would wear yellow if I want, and nobody can stop it. You see, there are several times, and maybe I could come back on this program to talk about why I left NDC, because I see it all the time come up in social media. She didn't get what she wanted. She saw a grape sitting, and I would like each time I say to the individual who posted up until recently, 12 days ago, tell me what it is I want, and they disappear. They can't tell me what it is. If I resigned from NDC in 2018, right after the 2018 election, had no contact, and I mean absolutely no contact with NDC since then. And I resigned not only my position, I resigned as a card-bearing member. And today you're telling me I didn't get what I want from Deacon Mitchell's administration when I had no contact, what it is I wanted. You see? So when I ask them, can you please tell me? Then they disappear. Not one person that I asked that question was able to come to me and said, you wanted X, Y, or Z. Never. They disappear. Right? But I would really like to talk about why I left NDC. One of these days.
Yes, one of these days, that conversation can certainly be had. And finally, lady and gentlemen, I will again advocate, as I did in the last election, for the Bub Report to host a debate between the leaders, a leadership debate. Would you, lady and gentlemen, advocate for that?
I would.
Very well.
Of course.
I think our national community deserves to hear our leaders on a platform that can do the research and the homework for the benefit, and you know, not only for the folks, for the activist voices of both parties, but for the general public, for educating and for really distilling the issues. So, Roland, on that note, over to you, sir, for some final closing comments.
All right. So, final closing comments. I would say that I guess the bell is going to ring. Maybe this year, maybe next year. Whenever it rings, just remember it's a process. Let's all keep it peaceful. This election, I think it's going to be pretty interesting. It's going to be a three-way fight. As I'm saying, we're going to look towards what plays out in terms of what the final picture looks like. I think, like I said earlier, we are in a political transitionary period. Some good things have happened. Some bad things have happened as well. the extent to which it resonates with the public, we'll see how the public feel about which political party, if they feel how they feel about NNP, how they feel about NDC. New candidates on, or how they feel about movement. New candidates on the stream. I think that's a good thing with new candidates coming in, and that's another phase in the transition period. A lot of new candidates, new faces coming on, which is good. It says that although a lot of people are turned off and they don't want to serve because they feel if they come forward to serve, oh, I'll be criticized. Oh, this is how they're gonna attack me. Those people who are stepping up, regardless of whether they come from movement, whether they come from NNP, whether they come from NDC, those young people stepping up, that's a good thing. I think that's a good thing for democracy, because someone has to continue the leadership of political governance, regardless of the color. That has to continue. That's what runs the country, and that's what represents us on the international scene, and you know, and so on. So that process has to continue. So the people who are stepping up, whether it's a Charmaine in movement, or whether it's No Lead in NNP, or whether it's I don't know, whoever is in NDC, whoever the young person.
You can't identify a candidate.
or my cousin Adrian in Northwest. I applaud them, and you know, it's a good thing. So I just wish that we keep it peaceful, we debate emotional, and you know, and so on, and keep the
dispassionately, yes,
away.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much, Raul. Ms. Simon, over to you for some closing comments.
Well, unlike Raul, I don't think it would be a three-way fight. I see it as still ending up being a two-way fight to NDC and NNP. And I'm just going to say here, when I pray for may the best team win. It don't always happen like that, but if it happens that's who the electorate chooses, then that's who they chooses. I pray for Grenada, Carriacou, and the PT Martinique, and I ask God to let his will be done. And that's where I'm going to stick. That's what I'm going to stick to. It's all out of our hands at the end of the day. When that comes and we vote, and we come home and sit down in front of the TV. So, you know, yeah, to see who's going to win, you know, and that's how that's what I'm going to do whenever it's called this time around again. You know, but I pray for peace and goodwill amongst men. I mean, I just hope that it turns out to be like that. If I would hate for some of what is happening on social media to roll out of there,
to spill out into public. On the ground, and so we have to pray for that, and we have a lot of praying to do. Thank you for having me again.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Cousins, Jenny and Raul, your cousins. I'm not related to you. I'll just put it out there.
I'm learning that today. He called me cousin, and I accepted. But
so Raul, she didn't know that. Where did this cousin thing come from?
From social media.
Okay, all right, because I don't want the viewers to go leaving with the impression that, oh, Dr. Bub, you invited the family, this is a family affair. No. Okay, all right, it's a social media thing.
That's like some people call me Tanty Jenny. Everybody calls me Tanty Jenny now. I don't know where it came from. Okay. But that's Tanty Jenny.
Well, I see your dog is asking you to get off the show now. So yes. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for appearing on the Bub Report this week. Our viewers and listeners, of course, we just had a very spirited conversation on the political issues animating discourse in Grenada at this moment. Again, it's always important that we are able to dispassionately distill these issues and to do deep dives on the tea leaves that are affecting and impacting Grenada at this time. Of course, many of your comments were extremely passionate, and I just wanted to make the point that I do want us to keep our commentary respectful, and that those commentaries should reflect the issues that are being articulated, as opposed to the name calling and the vitriol and all of that. I don't think that helps the body politic of our societies, and sometimes we have to really rise above that. There's always a place for the little peacock and the movelang and all of that, but let us not allow it to degenerate into a place that's just not helpful for education and upliftment. As we said at the start of the program, again, we do want to again extend our deepest condolences to the family of a Grenadian icon, a Grenadian medical icon, a Grenadian patriot, Dr. Roland Purcell, who sadly passed away so suddenly, in a way that's just very tragic and sad for the Grenadian community, both in Grenada and in Brooklyn, New York, and of course in the diaspora in general, because Dr. Purcell had a very wide breadth of reach with respect to the service that he provided by way of his medical practice and by way of his philanthropy as well to Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. So we want to again extend to Miss Frances Purcell personally, and I want to extend condolences to you. That was your dear brother, and to all of his other siblings, and of course to his community in St. David, to his cousins, the Fishers up in Pomerose, where I'm also from. Of course, that is also a great loss to our parish in St. David, and the work of the Purcell family as philanthropists for Grenada is something that must be acknowledged in the annals of Grenadian history. So again, also as we go, I also again finally want to take this time to extend Happy Shelter Baptist Liberation Day to all spiritual Baptist Orisha and Santeria adherents in Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean region. Of course, to my dear blessed auntie Carol Williams of blessed memory as well, who was an avid spiritual Baptist. Happy Shelter Baptist Liberation Day to you. And so I would leave you with another Orisha clip as we go to break, and we'll see you next week for another edition of the Bub Report. I'm your humble host, Dr. Kellan Bub. Thank you for watching this week's edition of the Bub Report. Take care. Bye-bye.
Because I get persecuted, don't watch I walk over. I like to walk over. Trust me. Anybody say I does walk over, I like to pick up my calabash with my salt. When I see them and go and start to chew salt, just chew salt. And ring my bell, call my bell and ring my bell. I want to take up my candle and go and start to pray. Almighty and everlasting God, have mercy upon them. Mercy, I ask, mercy, I plead. I want to take up my glass with my water and ask God to send Michael the Archangel to stand by the entrance of my gate to prevent me from the wickedness and the bad tongue of the people. You could touch me and say anything with me, but as long as my God is real, He is real indeed.
everyone. The Bub Report is committed to being fearless, balanced, and independent, bringing you the stories that matter most without compromise. Now do us a favor. Remember to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Hit the bell so you never miss an update. You can also watch us on GBN TV every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Catch us on WPG10 television every Sunday at 8 p.m. Your support helps us to keep journalism free from bias and influence. And together, we can make sure every voice is heard and every fact is verified. Thanks for watching.
Should your loved ones pass on, they deserve.
Don't go there.
You are a technocrat. I mean, you can speak to whether or not it was appropriate or inappropriate for that to occur. Would you have done that as a permanent secretary?
Politicians get the information from wherever source that they can.
That's going to be the extent of your answer.
Yeah.
Don't go there.
There's a lot of noise around the data protection bill that, in my respectful view, is not warranted.
I was one of those making noise, and it's simply because I was concerned about that specific section 33.
Don't go there.
Are you going to be offering yourself up as political leader of the party?
I see you've called me have a much more than diplomatic passport. I don't buy that.
Don't go there.
What is the relationship like between you and your leader, Dr. Mitchell, your boss, Dr. Mitchell?
I'm not sure how to explain how to answer this question at this time. I prefer not to answer.
Don't go there.
They said that you approached the bank for the loan before the election and that it only materialized after the election. There are also conflicting reports around the quantity of monies that were received. What is the reality here?
People try to extort the truth and to make all kinds of things about it. I just keep quiet. So if you notice, I was really and truly